Greetings, programs, and welcome to the Gaming Outsider, a video game podcast with a focus on our incredible community, which can be found at thegamingoutsider.com, facebook.com/groups/the GoCast, and even a Discord server. There's a link in the show notes for this very episode. It is Saturday, January 4th. I'm your host, Scott Clark, and joining me is my good friend, Mr. Kevin Honingford. Kevin, how you doing?
I'm great. Yourself?
I'm good. I forgot to give you your actual title, because
No.
your title here on YouTube just says just a guy. But your real title is producer extraordinaire,
Yeah.
because Kevin is the reason that we sound as good as we do, or bad, I guess. If you want to blame somebody, it also goes to him.
There you go.
But Kevin does all the editing for the Gaming Outsider, including Patreon episodes and all that good stuff. I basically dump all the audio into a folder. He takes it and then makes magic happen and sends me a file to upload onto the website. So thank you, Kevin, for all that you do, man. I really do appreciate it.
Good. No thanks needed. Like I said, I enjoy tinkering with that kind of stuff. So
Very cool. Now, this is not our normal episode. We told you on our last episode that we're taking a couple weeks off, and that is true. We did decide to take a little bit of a break for the holidays, but we wanted to give you guys something to kind of whet your appetite before our big Game of the Year episode, which is coming on Thursday, this coming Thursday. It's my favorite episode of the year. Grant is coming to kind of moderate the whole thing, and we're actually going to have all 5 cast members. So there's going to be 6 of us on an episode. We've never done that before.
it's got to be a crowded room.
It is. And on top of that, we are also going to be, I guess for the second time, it was going to be the first time. This is the first time we're doing it. But we are going to be doing that episode live as well. So it's going to be available on YouTube, maybe Twitch. I guess we should have discussed that beforehand.
Yeah, sure. We'll figure all that out. This is our little test run.
Yeah, we're just doing this as a
This
test
is
run.
us ironing out the kinks that we're going to find as we go forward.
Yeah. So we are live on YouTube right now. Hopefully you can see it. If not, let us know.
I was going to say, let us know.
Because we really want to make sure that's on there. I'm actually looking at the YouTube right now, and I'm just seeing a blank screen. So I don't know
Okay.
what's going on. But here's what's going to happen on this episode. We wanted to do a couple special things for you. The first thing we wanted to do, I promise you, we're going to give you some samples of some Patreon episodes, some past ones, to kind of give you an idea of the content that we offer you guys for subscribing to our Patreon. As you guys know, that's how we pay for the site. That's how we pay for our hosting and all that good stuff. And we also use it to purchase games that we review on the show and then turn around and give away to the community. So we're not asking for Patreon funds to line our own pockets at all. We are using it to pay for the show and then in turn either put it towards R2V2 next year, our video game convention, or towards giveaways for the show. On top of that, Kevin also has something special planned that I'm going to let him describe in just a second. I have no idea what this is going to be about, but he wanted to talk to me about something. So we're going to go over that in just a few short minutes. But before we do, I want to make sure everybody is aware. Like I said, we are less than a week away from our Game of the Year episode. We're actually going to be recording on Tuesday. And we wanted to get your guys' input on your favorite video games of the year as well, because what we're doing is we're going to have our top game of the year, just the GoCast, like the hosts of the show, as well as our community writers. We've all voted on our favorite games, and we're going to have a number one game that is considered our game of the year. But we also want to get the listeners' game of the year. So Grant will be compiling everybody's top 10 and doing some calculations and coming up with an overall listener game of the year. And in order to get that, we need your guys' input. So in the show notes for this episode, there is a link that will take you to a Google form. And we are asking that you guys give us your top 10, or if you did not play 10 games this year, your top however many, in order, with number 1 being your absolute favorite game of 2024. And to thank you for doing that, we're going to do a giveaway. We're actually giving away 3 different games. I wanted to get one from each platform. So we've got PS5, Switch, and Xbox all represented. So if you would like to win a copy of Silent Hill 2 on PS5, a copy of Wild Bastards, which is I know Zack loves this game. He actually gave it a perfect 10 out of 10 on our website. That's on Switch. And also I needed something for Xbox. So I threw in a copy of System Shock, the remake of System Shock on Xbox.
Ooh.
All you got to do to win one of those is give us your top 10 games of the year. And then, like I said, Grant's going to do his magic. Now, you can only win one of them. So please only enter for a platform that you have access to. If you have multiple access to multiple consoles, we're going to do them in order: Silent Hill 2, then Wild Bastards, then System Shock. If you win one, you can't win another one. So keep that in mind as you decide which ones you want to enter for, and you can kind of do a check down box as to which games you want to enter the drawing for. So again, go to that link, fill it out for Grant, and then we will have the results on our Game of the Year episode, which for you guys will release on Thursday. All right, with that, I'm going to hand the reins over to Mr. Honigford because he's got something special planned. Again, I have no idea what's going to happen, but Kevin, take it away.
Greetings, programs, and welcome to. Oh, wait, you already did that. No, I'm being serious. I had this idea the other day, and I want to do this with all of you. Like, I know you all the hosts have discussed their own, their personal passions surrounding this project, the Gaming Outsider, before, through whether it's like bits and pieces of each show or community questions when people ask you about it, yada yada yada. But I wanted to sit down and get kind of like a deep dive into what this means to each of you,
Okay.
what you do, like what it entails you doing throughout your pursuit and all that fun jazz. So yeah, I just wanted to let people kind of get an inside look at as to what this means and what you guys do for this on a regular basis.
Okay, I'm intrigued, man. Let's do it.
So first off, I mean, again, some of these you've already spoke on numerous times, but just for the purpose of maybe there's someone out there that hasn't heard. For starters, like where did so how did this get started?
How did the Gaming Outsider get started, you mean?
Yes.
Just in general?
Yep.
Well, it started over 10 years ago, back in the day, back in the iPod days. I listened to podcasts like crazy. When I discovered that there was talk radio that actually discussed something I was interested in, because I feel like talk radio is always either news or sports, which, hey, okay.
Right.
But when I found out that there was talk radio that talked about video games, I became obsessed. Every podcast I could get my hands on, I listened to over and over and over, and I just subscribed each week. It's been so long, Kevin, that in order to listen to podcasts, I actually had to connect an iPod to my laptop, pick which ones I wanted to download, and then upload to my iPod, and then take the iPod and plug it in. Like that. This is way before the iPhone was a big deal for me, right?
Yep. We're showing our age here a little bit.
It's weird to say that because it's only been like 10, 12 years.
Right.
But that's how I consumed podcasts when I first started listening, because that's where podcasts came from, is you listen to them on your iPod. Nowadays, you just have an app that you just download it right from the internet, and it's great. But yeah, back in the day, guys, we had to actually plug in a device into our home computer, sync that iPod with the laptop, and then go from there. So.
And that was after we had to walk uphill to school both ways.
Both ways, yes. And very, very cold, 6 feet of snow. So I listened to shows, and the more I listened, I was like, I could do that. I was just listening to people do it, and I'm like, there's no reason I can't do this. I mean, even back, I don't know if I've told this story before, but there was a Christmas one year where my mom gifted my brother and I a bunch of old cassette tapes, like audio cassette tapes. If you remember, for those of you that don't know what I'm talking about, there were these little plastic things that had two wheels in them, and you would stick them into what was called a tape recorder, and you would press and record your voice. So my mom gifted my brother and I these old tapes from when I was a kid. And my brother and I used to do what we called Scott. My brother's name is Marshall. It was Scott and Marshall's radio show, and it was this collection of tapes of him and I just doing a radio program together.
Oh.
It was nothing. It was just us talking and doing and telling jokes, and at one point in there was my brother and I reviewing a video game.
Oh, wow.
It was, I don't know if you remember the game Bad Dudes. It was an arcade game called Bad Dudes. And there was an NES port of it that we had rented from our local video store. Video Age was the name of that video store. And we basically took turns playing the game while the other had the tape recorder, kind of giving a play-by-play of what was going on the screen, and doing color commentary like it was a sports event. Oh, he he punched that guy right in the face. He fell off the screen and he picked up a Coke and all this kind of stuff. And it was hilarious to go back and listen to.
I think that would
So,
be awesome.
my brother has them. I got to ask him if he still got them because it'd be
Oh,
kind of
yeah.
cool to,
Yeah.
plus my voice was about,
17
soprano
octaves lower.
level of very high pitch. But it was a lot of fun. And so apparently podcasting was in my blood, like even at
Yeah.
an early age, even before I knew what a podcast was. And after listening to podcasts for so long, I was like, I can do this. And one of the things that bugged me about listening to podcasts after years of listening was it seemed like so many of these guys talking about games just didn't like games anymore. And it was very cool or hip, to have these hot takes of how this is like it's everybody just crapping on games and talking about how they were broken and this game sucks and because it elicited controversy and got people talking about it. And I was like, I want to do a show where it's not about that, where it's people celebrating the hobby, because I grew up as a video game fan, when it wasn't cool. And I hate to sound like a hipster when I say that, but Kevin, you can attest to this.
Yeah, I think most people do actually know that there was a time when video game players were referred to as numerous names, dorks and geeks and
Nerds.
nerds. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was very much looked down upon by adults and kids alike. If you liked video games or D&D or comics, you didn't
Then you
tell
didn't have
anybody
friends.
about
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
So I wanted to have a way to express this thing that I love so much and create a community where we celebrated this thing that I love to do so much and talked about its merits. And not just not just being sunshine and rainbows all the time. You know what I mean? Like, I
Right.
wanted to look at games with a critical eye, but I didn't want to speak in a way that would offend somebody making that art. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
it's just being objective, right?
Exactly. Like
Yeah.
let's talk about something in a way that is fair to the critics, but also is critical. And
Mhm.
that was kind of where my tagline derived. At the end of every episode, we say, "There's no such thing as a bad game, just games that aren't for you." And I feel like I always have to defend that because people are like, "Scott, come on, Superman 64 exists." I'm like, and I get it. There are games that are objectively bad, but I'm not going to focus on them. And there's got to be somebody out there that genuinely loves to sit down and play Superman 64.
I'm sure there might be like two. Yeah.
Right. So, the old saying of one man's trash is another man's treasure.
Mhm.
That's kind of the mentality is I don't want to yuck anybody else's yum and just sit there and blast a game. I mean, as an example, Zack loves this game Wild Bastards that we're giving away.
Yep.
I bought a copy of it because I'm like, I want to be able to talk about it with
Of
him on
course,
the
it's
game
going to
of
be his game of the year episode. Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
right. So like, I want to be able to speak about it. And hey, if one of my best friends recommends a game that highly, I want to check it out of curiosity. I was going to say between you and me, but this is live on a podcast. So I am not a fan of Wild Bastards.
Okay. All right.
Tried. I tried 3 or 4 different times. It's not clicking for me now. You'll hear me talk about this on the episode. I don't know if that is a Switch issue, a hardware issue, because I am playing it on Switch where he played it on PS5.
Okay.
The controls just feel very off to me.
Okay.
So I may give it another shot on another platform down the road. But anyway, the reason for telling that story is I avoided telling Zack my feelings about that game because I know he loves it so much, and I just don't want to be that guy that I don't want to come across like I'm crapping on something that he loves so much.
Yeah.
And
No,
and
that's fair.
and he finally asked about it, and I kind of was told him how I felt, and he says he's like, "No, dude, I'm not offended." He's like, you like what you like, and you don't like what you don't like. So, um, but that's the whole mentality I have with the Gaming Outsiders. I wanted it to be positive. I wanted people to come together and celebrate video games and not just focus so much on the negative.
Yeah.
Again, not that we can't be critical, but that we can be legit critics and not trying to be edgy, but trying to be nice.
Yeah.
If
No,
that makes sense.
Okay. So my next question then is that, like, as this started off, I'm assuming it didn't like just jump into the sky and just take off immediately. What kind of challenges did you face originally when you started this whole project? Like, what was the first thing where you said, okay, I'm going to have to work at this?
Well, building an audience was a little bit easier than for most, probably because my first, even before the Gaming Outsider was a podcast, we did a podcast called the Official Thread Podcast. I don't know if I've told you that, Kevin. Are you familiar with
Yep.
that?
That was with your buddy Mike, right?
Mike and Chris
Okay. Yeah.
Owens and I
Okay.
did that show together, and we swapped out and had some other people here, and I think Aaron was on that one for a while. Um, Failed miserably. Like,
Oh.
I just did not go anywhere. We had really crappy art. Um, we were recording in a closet. I mean, it was just kind of ridiculous, and we didn't have the tools that we do now, like to do things live or to do, the editing was a lot more difficult. This things weren't quite what they are now. And I eventually let it go in favor of The Hollywood Outsider, which is the brainchild of Aaron Peterson, one of my good friends. He's actually been running a website. He ran a website in the early 2000s called The Hollywood Outsider, um, that he just did like as a blog site. And I convinced him that we should turn that into a podcast, which became the Hollywood Outsider
Hmm.
podcast and still running to this day. And I did that show with him for, I want to say, 6, 7 years.
Oh wow.
Um,
Okay.
and while that was going, I enjoyed it. Obviously, had a lot of fun doing that. Met some great friends, but decided I wanted to. I just like games better, so I asked his permission to use the name, The Gaming Outsider, since the Hollywood Outsider was his baby,
Yeah.
and he said that was fine. So it became kind of a sister podcast. So you know, I had a little bit of a leg up in that we had an established audience with the Hollywood Outsider already. So starting the Gaming Outsider wasn't like 0 people listening to it. It was like I got to go on there and be like, "Hey, I'm doing this other podcast. If you like games, would you come check it out?"
Ah.
And
Okay.
we had that built in. The hard part was growing that audience, and I feel like that's even still a struggle for us today, especially because back when we started, there was some. I don't even know if I've told you this. There was something wrong with our podcast hosting service, their number gathering, their data was wrong.
Oh. Okay.
So we were getting 1,500 downloads an episode, and we're feeling pretty good about ourselves. And then they came to us and said, "Hey, we've been reporting numbers incorrectly, and here are your actual numbers," and they were much lower than that.
Oh. Ouch.
So it felt
Okay.
really deflating
Yeah.
to have like this what we thought was a massive audience and just get dwindled. I mean, down to like a quarter of what it
Ouch.
was. So digging ourselves out of that and trying to rebuild was probably the biggest struggle because um, there's so many other podcasts out there. There's
Yeah.
so many
Yeah.
people doing what we're doing, and as I'm learning, there's so many people that are not doing a decent job of it. um, so it's very frustrating knowing that we have high quality production thanks to you, and we just can't seem to get as much traction. Now, we're not celebrities. um
Right.
we don't have any of that kind of stuff. Like one of the podcasts I like, Nextlander, came from Giant Bomb, so they had that whole audience that they left, and they're doing great. We also don't have the luxury of doing this as our full-time job, so I can just focus on building a market and spending all my free time interacting with the audience and doing everything I can. There's a time restraint as well.
Okay. So, is there something that you want other like? Is this going forward? Like, as you push through, is this something that you do specifically to as an outlet for yourself, or is there something that you're hoping people get from this as well?
A little bit of both. I think in the back of my mind when I started it, I had stars in my eyes, and I was like, IGN is going to hear this podcast and they're going to be like, we can't wait to hire that guy. You know what I mean? Or some big
Yeah.
publication
Yeah.
was going to be like, that dude is great and he's a good writer. We need to get him on staff somewhere else. So in the back of my mind, that was always part of it. The hope that somebody was going to recognize the hard work and all that, and I could make a full-time career out of it. 10 years, that hasn't happened, guys. So,
Yeah, yeah.
um, the other goal with it when I started was I wanted to get to E3. I wanted to be considered a member of the press, and we got to go there 2 or 3 times, and it was awesome. That was a very huge moment for me to be able to be a member of the press and have my press pass and get to go into things that other people couldn't and see games and report on them. Truly one of the happiest times of my life was going there with Zach and getting to do that. So that felt good. But in terms of everybody else, I just want people to have a place where they can come and have discussions, listen to what we do, discuss what we say on Discord, on Facebook, on Twitter, wherever, and have a place where it's not filled with vitriol. Where they can come and they can make a comment and not be just completely land-blasted and told they're wrong.
Yeah, that seems to be everywhere nowadays.
Yeah, it's been my biggest pet peeve since I was a kid is I can't stand condescension. I can't. I hate it. I absolutely hate it when someone talks down to somebody like they are better than they are. And when it comes to my favorite hobby, don't bring that to my games. We dealt
Right.
with that our entire childhood, and I wanted people to be able to come and have that conversation. And even when somebody disagrees with me or they have an opinion that I just think is crazy, I want to be able to have a conversation about it without the name calling and people getting offended. Like, let's have an open conversation about it and take those deep dives alongside something that is very, very important and fun to me, which is video games.
Okay. So where do you want this? Like, if you had a vision, if you could lay this out in front of everybody right now, where do you want? Like, what is your end goal for this right now?
Money is no object. Like, I could quit my job. Is that?
I mean, let's be kind of realistic, but yeah, like, what is your? If I mean, maybe it does come down to money. I don't know, but what do you want this to be? Like if you could have, let's just say, money might not be a thing, but help is a thing. Like, if you could have all the help in the world to accomplish what you needed to do with this, what would that be?
I mean, ultimately, I would love to have a studio space where we actually recorded, in person together. Where you would be having a green screen behind us and we're sitting in front of microphones. Ideally, I want to have whatever game we're talking about, I want to have footage of that game on the screen with us.
That would be
We're
clever.
either I'm thinking high production where like on the screen right now it's you and I with our logo in the middle and this goofy
Yep.
background in the background, and that's awesome. But then like if we go into talking about a game, I want the screens to kind of go to the bottom of the screen and then most of the screen be gameplay of the game we're talking about. Um, that's what I wanted when I was a kid. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? I wanted a review where someone's talking about it, and I'm, like back in the X Play days. I don't know if you remember. Did you ever watch X Play?
I did not know.
Uh, on G4 TV, it was like there was a X Play was a show where Morgan Webb and boy, his name is escaping me, and that's crazy. Uh, but they would review a game, and their faces wouldn't even be on it. It would just be like a recorded review of them doing that, and everybody does that now on IGN.
Right.
But I want to do that live,
Yeah.
where we're talking about a game, so that when someone it's a lot easier to ask somebody questions about a game that they haven't played when they're actually seeing footage of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that makes
Um,
sense.
and then the person listening to the show can actually also go and look at it and see what they're talking about. Instead of having to go and click on a link and watch the trailer for themselves, they can see it in real time. So that's kind of ideally what I'd like to do. Obviously, the distance between Zach and Alyssa makes that impossible. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah,
Um,
that's a hurdle I don't know that you'll be able to get over for that type of scenario. But go on.
right. But but we could still do the videos. I think would be a
Yeah.
thing. It would just take some extra effort on your part because I'm not going to manage that and produce that while we're in the middle of recording. I'm just a talent, man.
um. Yeah. So is there anything else like I'll ask a, a little bit later now if there's anything else you want the listeners, watchers, whatever to know. But is there anything else that people don't know about what goes into this that Like give us a look behind the scenes as to what the challenges are, like on a day-to-day basis. Like we talked about what your challenges were, getting it off the floor, getting things going, kind
Mhm.
of getting it to a smooth operation. What kind of challenges do you run into now that this has been developed for a bit? I mean, you said what, 10 years, right?
Yeah.
So you have the ins and outs a little bit. So what kind of challenges are you running into now? Um, now that you're where you're at?
I would say the biggest thing is almost my fault because one of the goals I didn't mention that I wanted with the Gaming Outsider was I wanted to be able to rub shoulders with developers and publishers and PR reps to acquire review copies of games. Because I don't want to have to pay for every single game I'm reviewing, and it just feels cool. It feels
Yeah,
like
yeah.
an accomplishment to be able to have that relationship and get games sometimes before they're released so that I can have coverage on release day. That feels amazing. The problem with doing that is that I've spent the last 10 years trying to massage those relationships and do my best to keep communication open and get our name out there in front of these people so that when they see the Gaming Outsider, they think quality. So every time we review a game that is provided for us, there is a whole bunch of steps that I go through. Um, I get between 50 and 60 emails a day,
Oh wow. Okay.
with press releases and I have to kind of sort through those, and I have to, first off, get it to our writers. We have a room dedicated to our writers on Discord that I say, hey, I can request this game. And then if someone says, I would like to request that game, I go back to my contact and say, I've got a writer that would like to play this game. We will give you a full written review. We'll give you a link to the podcast episode with a timestamp. Please, consider us as a potential outlet. And then I put on a spreadsheet, which I know people like to make fun of me for, but it's the only way I can keep track of it. And then I wait. And if I get the review copy, I get it to the writer. I update the spreadsheet. They review the game. They write the game, or they write the review, excuse me. It goes to Zack to edit it and score it. Then it goes to Alyssa, who puts it on the website. Then it goes back to me to read through it, make sure do one extra set of eyes to give final approval, make sure the author's correct and all that good stuff. Get the pictures uploaded, and then we publish it. Then I go back to my contact, send them a link to. Oh, also we got it recorded on the episode,
Yep.
which often involves setting up a time to pre-record a review with one of our contributing writers that isn't a regular host on the show. And then getting all of that information to my contact saying, hey, thank you so much for allowing us to review this game. Here's our coverage. Please consider us in the future for any future titles we might be able to cover for you. And then going back to my spreadsheet, updating it, and I've got a whole thing that keeps track of how many reviews everybody does. That consumes a lot of my time. That
That sounds like it.
because that's just one game.
Yeah.
I think currently we've got about 12 reviews out there pending, waiting coverage, and then I've got about 20 or 30 review requests pending, waiting for answers, from the publisher, developer, or PR
Wow.
rep, and and then I got to move them if it's too old. I'm like, oh, they obviously didn't want it, so I put it in
Right.
the no go pile, and I just kind of keep things
So they
organized
just
that
straight
way.
up don't tell you no, they just don't answer you?
Yeah, I mean, some will respond and say, "Hey, we don't have any more codes available," or we looked at your numbers and you're not big enough for us to give you a code," that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I take the shotgun approach. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
eventually, the more shots you take, you're going to have a better shot of hitting something. So, um, that, like I said, takes up a lot of my time. Thankfully, during the holiday season, that dies down because most of the world is on break these 2 weeks out of the year.
Yeah.
And I should have told you this, but a lot of these contacts are in Europe. So I'm
Oh
communicating
wow.
with
Okay.
people all over the world, not just in the
That was
United
going to be what
States.
my next question is like, where is all this coming from? But no, that's I did not know that. No.
Yeah. I've even some in South America. I've got some contacts down there. Um, yeah, mostly Europe and America, and North America though. But Yeah, like I said, I've got it down to a science. In terms of going through emails, I know how to skim through an email very quickly. Look for the trailer, look for the platform. Um, there,
So you've got emails down to an art. Yeah, yeah. Okay.
yeah. And I don't, read every word of an email. It would take me forever. I honestly don't even watch all of the trailers, but
I don't know anybody that does read all the email, but yeah.
yeah. So that's something else I would like to do. Is I would love to have somebody be like a dedicated um poster of on our website of like, hey, this game just got announced, and I could just send them the press release and say, put together an article about this with the trailer, give a brief synopsis. I mean, it's some of it is copy and paste, but obviously you want to put our own flair into it and say, hey, watch this trailer. This game was announced. This game was announced. Like a news editor.
Okay. Yeah. Yep.
Like somebody that is taking, or if there's a big news story, I say, write this article, and put it up, approve it, and then we publish it on the socials. That was another step I didn't mention, by the way. Once a review is posted, posting on the socials,
Yeah.
Twitter, Facebook, all that good stuff.
Okay. So like you talked about like what you just talked about there, having other people do this stuff, and you talked about like Zach doing the editing and scoring, and Alyssa doing the putting it on the website and everything. Like, so you have all these members of your, we'll call them a core crew.
Mm-hmm.
You obviously have to have pretty good relationships with them. I mean, like we're not talking like husband, wife and stuff, but you're pretty good friends with them. Is that trust a very big issue with the group as you're doing that?
Is trust an issue?
Yeah, but like you obviously trust them to do this. Yeah, I guess I don't really know how to say what I'm actually trying to ask, but um, for lack of a better term, I'll just say, you trust obviously everyone to do this. Does it take a while to build rapport to have someone do that? Like if you brought, let's just say me,
Mm-hmm.
you brought me in to start doing the producing when Nate didn't want to do it anymore. I don't remember exactly where we were at when that started. But does it take a bit to get there, or you just kind of let them take the reins and learn as they go?
I mean, most everybody that's been brought on, I was friends with already. You know what I mean? We had one instance where I quote unquote hired somebody to be a news editor,
Oh,
someone I did not know, and it actually wound up being a really bad situation.
oh wow, okay,
I mean, like even before it started, it was done. So everybody else, it's just because the gaming outsider is a business, but it's a business where nobody's getting paid. It's all volunteer work. So I don't like have high demands or expectations of anybody, but those that do the work are going to get the attention. You know what I
okay.
mean?
I think that's what I was trying to say. Is like that, like you just explained the question I was trying to ask, for
Yeah.
lack of a better term. Um, okay, no, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So is so is there anything else that anyone that hasn't seen this, heard this, whatever, maybe people that are listening, watching for the first time,
hmm
um, anything else that you think they should know or would like them to know about the gaming outsider and what it is?
Well, like I said, it's a community. I mention it every show. Come find us on Facebook, the GoCast, Twitter at the GoCast, Discord. There's a link in the show notes. Come join and be a part of the community. Um, Ask questions, make posts, do things to engage. If you're interested in writing, doing a review of a game. Again, it's not a paid gig. We don't have sponsors. We have some Patreon income, but not enough to pay anybody for anything. I don't even pay myself. Literally, I've never paid myself a dime. But be a part of the community and share with somebody. That's the biggest thing. Is that you know people often say, well, how can I support you? How can I help you? Patreon is obviously one way, but it's not even the best way. The best way you can is by sharing with somebody that you know. Even if you don't like games, you probably know somebody or have a friend or family member in your life that does love games, and just telling them about it and saying, hey, go check out this community, be part of it, would be fantastic.
Okay, awesome. Um, yeah, I think that pretty much ends what I had going on.
All
Um,
right.
so I'll let you take back the wheel now.
Well, thanks, Kevin. That was fun. Again, I had no idea what Kevin was gonna do. He just said he wanted to interview me. So that was fun, man.
I did enjoy that. Yeah, I learned some stuff I didn't know.
And you're quite the interviewer, man. You did a good job.
Thank you.
I did not feel like you were
I-
reading. It did not feel like you were reading questions like when I do it. Like I'm just straight reading them.
Oh,
So
okay.
you're very good at keeping it conversational. So.
Well, I appreciate it.
Well, we got one other thing that we promised you guys before we get out of here, and that is to give you guys some samples of Patreon content. Now, if you're watching this live on YouTube, which I'm looking at the counter and it says 0, so nobody's here. And it's still showing blank on my end, by the way.
Oh, I have it up here.
You do?
I have it. Yep.
Maybe I just need to refresh over on my end because oh, there we are.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's going to be really cool for people to be able to watch that live. So,
Yep.
Anyway, so if you're watching this live, you're not going to hear these old episodes, these old Patreon episodes. But if you're listening to this on the podcast feed, you're going to hear a couple. And we kind of hemmed and hawed about which ones we're going to do. Since Kevin put this together, I decided we were going to share with you guys our trade-off episode. It was our first trade-off episode that Kevin and I did, where we made each other play a game, and Kevin made me play Sonic the Hedgehog, which I had never played through to completion, and I made him play Link to the Past, Legend of Zelda Link to the Past on Super Nintendo. This is back from May of 2022. So
It's been that long already?
Yeah, it's, 2.5 years.
Oh, man.
And then we're also going to do an older Desert Island Games episode. We sat down. You know what? I'm going to leave that one a mystery because I had one in mind I wanted to do, but we thought that maybe we had already shared that one with people. So
I don't think it'll hurt. So let's just do it anyway.
Okay, well, we're gonna play
judgment.
the Desert Island episode with Marina Ryan. She has a fantastic podcast. She's actually in Australia. We recorded this one back on July of 23. So this one about a year and a half ago. Zack and I sat down with her, and it was a lot of fun. So again, these are just 2 samples of what we are able to provide for our patrons. We do lots of other content. We do spoiler casts. We do legacy episodes where we talk about the legacy of a specific franchise. We do Break the Seal, where we make somebody play a game that they've never played before. All kinds of good stuff. And if you subscribe at the $3 or $5 tier, you'll get 1 or 2 bonus episodes respectively. And we'd appreciate it if you checked it out at patreon.com/thegocast. But these 2 you don't have to pay for. Wanted to give you a sample, so here you go. Greetings, programs, and welcome to this very special Patreon exclusive episode of the Gaming Outsider. I'm joined here with my good friend Kevin Honigford. How's it going, Kevin?
I'm great. How are you doing?
I'm doing okay. We're trying to do something, I don't even know if I want to call it new, because it's technically a break the seal for you and a break the seal for me, but we kind of wanted to go head to head a little bit. So you want to give everybody a little bit of history of how this whole thing started? I think it was your idea.
Honestly, I think we were just sitting down having some beers at D&D night, and I said, hey, you know what? I know you love Zelda, and I love Sonic, and it's been a friendly little rivalry since we've gotten to know each other, and I said, I'll lay down a challenge for you, and I'll play Zelda, you play Sonic, and we'll see how it goes.
And to be clear, you've played some Zelda in the past, correct?
The only Zelda game I've completed was the Ocarina of Time.
Okay.
I've played the Twilight Princess very little, and I played, I did play Breath of the Wild. I'm sorry. I did play quite a bit of that, but I never ended up finishing it.
It's a long game.
Yeah. Yeah, but those 2 are the only 2 that I played outside of Ocarina of Time and put any decent amount of time in.
Interesting. So you're kind of going backwards through the catalog, as it were, because you decided, per my recommendation, to play my favorite game of all time.
Yeah.
Which is The Link to the Past, or A Link to the Past, which is cool. And yeah, friendly is an interesting way to say that, considering when you have a couple beers in you, it gets to be a little belligerent. I wish people could see how mean you are to me with the fact that I've never completed a Sonic game until this weekend, because, yeah, for some reason, Sonic has been a game that has eluded me. I played Sonic, and I played Sonic 2, and played a little Sonic and Knuckles. I played a lot of Sonic Spinball when I was a kid, but I've never...
That makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, being the pinball head that I am, I love Sonic Spinball. But I decided to accept Kevin's challenge, and I played through the original Sonic the Hedgehog on the Genesis. Now, to be clear, I didn't play it on the original hardware. I did play it on Steam emulation because Kevin was gracious enough to gift me a copy of it. So I played it on my MacBook with a controller. But yeah, we've both played through both of these games, and we wanted to talk a little bit about our first experiences with each game, and also just what the series means to each of us. I mean, I think everybody that listens to the show knows my love for Zelda, so I want to start things off with you. Why Sonic, man? Like, why? And also to be clear, the Sonic Legacy episode has not released as of this recording, so
Yep.
I haven't had a chance to listen to that to probably hear this story. So can you kind of recap why this series means so much to you?
Yeah, it is a little bit of a recap of what we talked about on there. But basically, long story short, when I was a kid, all my friends had Nintendos and had the Super Nintendo, and my old man was always a fan of the underdog. And so when I actually asked for a Super Nintendo or Genesis because I'd seen them on the commercials on TV. When I asked for one of them, I was hoping for a Super Nintendo because all my friends were playing the Metroids and the Zeldas and the Marios and I would watch most of them when I'd go over to their houses, and Mario I could play along with some, but so I was actually really wanting to get my hands on them, but I was also like Sonic looked cool on the commercials,
Marketing works. Who knew?
Yeah, right. But when that Christmas morning came and I opened up the box or unwrapped the gift that was the Sega Genesis, it was I think it's seriously like the only time I ever cried in joy over a Christmas present or a present of any sort.
Even though you were hoping for a Super Nintendo,
yeah,
and got a Genesis instead, you still cried.
Yep. Yeah, it was a pretty cool moment. And then Sonic just picked up with that. The coolness that was Sonic and his, like I said, I was used to my friends and their Marios and Zeldas and everything. And Sonic was just this dude with an attitude, and it was just built different. And
so did you kind of feel like you were a step ahead of your friends at this point?
No, it wasn't that. It was actually like back then we did have the friendly little, I have a Super Nintendo and I have a Genesis, and we did have the friendly little rivalry going, but a fun little story is my best friend at the time who had a Super Nintendo would draw me. We were both really into drawing pictures, comic book style pictures, and he would draw me pictures of Sonic and I would draw him pictures of Mario.
Interesting.
As a weird little twist there, yeah.
So did you berate him about not playing Sonic as much as you do me?
No, because he played Sonic.
Yeah, I've played Sonic, man. I've played Sonic now.
You did. And I said congrats when you sent me that text.
Yeah, you did. Because I think I was giving you screenshot grabs of each time I got a Chaos Emerald.
Yeah, you were telling me about it, and I was shitting my pants every time.
Well, I mean, remember, I'm playing it on an emulator, I know. I guess
that should be kind of a disclaimer because I did end up using a guide for quite a bit of the Zelda game too. So it wasn't like sitting down when we were 12 years old or whatever and playing through
when you had all that time. Yeah,
exactly. So
no, I mean, when I say I cheated, I didn't just look it up, dude. I used the save state feature.
Yep, I did the same.
Okay, yep. Cool. Well, yeah, because you played it on Switch, right? You played
the Switch
on Switch.
Yep.
Cool. So, was Sonic the first game you played on Genesis?
Yes, it was. It was because it's what came with the system.
Right, but not for resale copy.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and like I said, it was just like when I started playing that game, it was just it was a very awe-inspiring, like wow, this is what video games can be type moment. And it was like I said, it was fast. And I wasn't used to any kind of game that was fast like that, and that was just a different feeling.
Right.
So yeah, and then to cap that off, Sonic 2 was the first experience I had with like an oh shit moment in video games when in one of the stages. I don't know how far you've gotten, so I don't know if I want to spoil anything. But
I'm only about because Sonic 2 only has like 2 stages per level, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Which took a while to get used to. I was like so used to 3, and
it was a bit different.
I'm only like the second world or whatever you want to call it.
Okay. But there are parts of the game where he actually he's going so fast in the game that he runs like the camera can't keep up.
Oh, wow.
And I'm sure that's by design, but with as fast as he's going and as fast as the screen's flying by and the screen's still not able to keep up, it was just like wow, you know. I mean, seeing that being 13 years old or something, it was just really cool, and it's just been
Like you thought you were breaking the game, probably.
yeah. I seriously did. Now that you mentioned, I never really thought about that till you just said that, but yeah, I seriously was like, what is going on? So, and then you find out it's part of the game, and it's just so cool. But that and that nostalgia and that love for my first experiences is what just kept Sonic as a mainstay for me throughout the years.
Very cool, man. And I know that, like me, you have a shrine to Sonic, much like my shrine to Zelda.
Yeah.
And I've actually been to your house. You showed it to me because we went to a concert together, a couple months ago?
Yeah.
And stopped to pick you up, and you showed me this. And he's got quite an impressive collection of Sonic, statues and collectibles and games. It's pretty good.
It's my pride and joy.
Yeah. Very cool. Anything else you want to share about your love for the series overall?
Yeah, I don't think so necessarily. Like I said, there is the legacy spoiler, the movie spoiler legacy cast coming out pretty soon. So I don't want to take too much away from that. But
all right.
But yeah, that's the gist of it. So as far as you go, though, I mean, like you said, everybody in the world knows about your love for The Legend of Zelda, and basically, well, most games, because I have heard some negative talk about one game, but where did
Skyward Sword?
Yeah, yep. So where did this start with you?
Oh boy, I honestly don't remember which game I played first. I remember the first time I saw a Zelda game. I was a teenager, and I was kind of late to it. I didn't actually play it like originally at launch, but I remember either being a teenager or a middle schooler, and I was visiting a college campus. You know how they do those trips where you get to go and experience college life, so to speak?
Yeah, I got very little of those, but I do know what you're speaking of.
Yeah, I mean, I was like the only one I ever did, but I remember hanging out in this dorm with these guys, and the guy had the original Legend of Zelda. And I just was kind of blown away by the fact that a game could be an adventure, because I was so used to growing up with the Atari 2600, which was just basically score grabs. And then, the Nintendo, had, there was more than score grabs. You had Mario, and you had a little bit of story and that kind of thing. But, most things were just like, I'm controlling a character, and that's about the extent of it. And then Zelda comes out, or I see Zelda, and I was like, oh my God, there's this massive world to explore. This is the original, by the way, not Link to the Past.
Okay.
And I was just like, and there was a battery in the cartridge to be able to save your data or where you were, instead of having to punch in a stupid password every time.
Yes.
That just kind of blew my mind that's how big this game is, that the game had to have a battery installed to be able to save this. And it was very, very cool to me. And, after reading up on Shigeru Miyamoto's story for making the game, like he kind of based it on exploring when he was a kid.
Yep. I do remember reading that.
Yeah. Went out and explored caves and just went on his own little adventures as a kid. And I feel like that's something I kind of missed out on as a kid, because I kind of grew up very sheltered, as everybody knows.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't really get out to explore a whole lot. It was something I really want to do that, just go out and see what there is to experience in the world. And my way of doing that was with The Legend of Zelda, and just exploring and bombing walls and finding hidden caves and passageways under bushes. It was great. There was just something always about it. Just, Link was a hero. He was rescuing the princess, but it never felt silly. It just felt like a very serious, the Triforce of Power was this cool thing to have, and would grant you one wish. And I just fell in love with it. And this is a minor thing, but I'm also a Green Bay Packers fan. So the green and the gold just kind of fit automatically for me. And, so that's why I love those colors for the Packers, as well as The Legend of Zelda.
Okay.
But even bigger than that, I never really prided myself on being really good at video games. Even to this day, I just don't really consider myself to be skilled. But I was always a smart kid. I got straight A's. And for me, The Legend of Zelda was a game that required me to use my brain instead of my brawn. And I say brawn with my thumbs, but
Yeah,
I was
the
able
puzzles
to.
and all that.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
don't get me wrong. There's dexterity stuff, especially in the original Legend of Zelda, which we're gonna have to do maybe for a sequel to the Zelda
Yeah.
2 versus Sonic 2 or something like that.
Okay.
But there is some dexterity, but it was a lot of figuring out these puzzles and memorizing maps and figuring out where you go and finding hidden things by being tenacious with your bombs. And I just loved it. It made me feel smart. It's the first video game I ever played that made me feel like I was using my brain more than I was my thumbs.
Wow.
That makes sense.
Yeah, no, it does. It's weird. It's kind of weird to think about it like that because I've never thought about anything like that. But that's like, I get where you're coming from there. That's pretty cool.
So yeah, I've been in love with the series ever since. I've played, believe it or not, I've not completed every game in the series. There's a couple empty spots in there. Like I've not completed the Game Boy ones. There was like Oracle of Ages, Oracle of Seasons. I've never completed those.
Okay.
And I need to because they're great games. I wish they would bring them to Switch. Please bring Game Boy games to Switch.
Yeah, that would be nice.
That would be super nice. And I think there's one other one. I mean, and I've played the crappy ones, those ones on the CDI Philips. I don't know if you even know what those games are.
I don't know what those even are. So
there was a failed console made by Philips. It was called the CDI Philips. And somehow they convinced Nintendo to let them make 3 Legend of Zelda video games. And they are awful. They're
no.
One is like a Mario clone, which doesn't make any sense. One is like where you play as Zelda, and it's like this top-down, convoluted nightmare to navigate.
That sounds wrong from the get-go.
Oh yeah, we actually did a Patreon episode years ago with me and CB. We went back and played all 3 of those games, and they're terrible. They're really expensive though. I got 2 of them. I can't find the third one for less than like $500 or $600. So I don't know if I'm ever gonna get it. It's hard to pull the trigger on that much money when the game is terrible.
The game sucks. Yeah.
yeah. But it would be a pretty cool thing for the collection. So
that's true.
So yeah, let's get into the actual first experiences with the game, and I'm eager. You want to start with Sonic, or you want to start with Zelda? I'll leave it up to you.
I'm gonna be greedy here. I really want to hear about what your experience with Sonic.
Okay. Boy, and again, I've dabbled in Sonic, but I never really knew the mechanics in terms of how to get the Chaos Emeralds. I never knew. In my mind, Sonic was just a game that you just ran through and just had time jumps and everything. So I was a little surprised with the level of platforming that there was in this game. And it was really cool that there was platforming that didn't just go left to right. You actually went underground and went right to left, which is something that Mario doesn't do a whole lot, at least in the early games. So that was really cool. Oh, one thing that really stood out to me, and I don't know if this is just a thing that everybody knows, but I was playing this game with headphones because I was in the car with my buddies and I didn't want them to hear, all the noises and be annoyed. Did you know that the rings are actually like in stereo?
I did not.
Like every other ring, one goes in your left ear, one goes in your right ear, one goes in your left ear, one goes in your right ear.
Wow.
So yeah, like you got to try it. I don't know if that's just a thing on the Steam version, but
okay. No, I'm definitely gonna have to check that out. I had no idea. I'd never heard of that.
It's kind of a cool little feature. Like you, as you pick up rings, no matter what speed you get them, it's like every other ear is going off with that ring noise, which
that's
is pretty
cool. Yeah, that's an iconic noise for that genre, or that not genre, but
series.
Yeah.
Very, very, very iconic. So again, I was kind of expecting this to be like a speed run type game, which this game just feels like it is begging to be speed ran. You know what I mean? Like, and I felt like I was missing so many little secrets as I was going, because I was seeing platforms up in the sky that I didn't know how to get to, so I get the impression that there would be replayability to go back and just try to uncover everything. But is there anything really to uncover other than more rings or extra lives?
No, I mean, I'm just speaking from my experience. My fun with it was, like you said, there's so many different paths to take. That was kind of what stood out or helped that stand out at that point in time was there are so many different paths to take and ways to go about getting from the beginning of a level to the end. And the other part, for me was once you got to know the things was the speed running, just flying through. I mean, I remember you used to fly through the levels and try and. I had a little notepad that I would write down how fast I got through them on, and I would go through and try and beat that time every so often when I'd play the game again.
That's cool. Do you still are those muscle reflexes still there when you play it? Like,
I actually just picked it up again a couple weeks ago, and they're for the early levels. Yeah, towards the late ones, I had to do some work, but yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if I'll actually sit down and do it because I want to actually go through the other games first before I try to like really dig deep into this one. But it just seems like a memorization thing because you're not going to see things fast enough.
Yeah.
In order to have the reflexes to dodge or jump or whatever. It makes me want to go get a YouTube video and watch some speed runs of the game and just see how fast they can actually get.
Yeah. No, that would be cool.
The one thing that bugged me about this game, and I don't mean this isn't even really a bad thing. It's just I felt like there were so many gotcha moments, which makes for a fun game, right?
Yeah.
The spikes in particular, like I always felt like the levels were designed in a way to make you go, "Ha ha, fooled you." There's a spike sticking out of that wall, which is especially infuriating when you're trying to collect 50 rings.
Oh yeah.
In order to get to the end, because you get hit with like 70 rings, you're gonna get about 7 of them back. You know what I mean? It's and that's pretty frustrating. So I did catch myself. No, we're gonna go back to the less fail state or whatever, save state. But it was, like I said, I was the underground sections where you're having to jump on blocks and going across the lava, and I was expecting Sonic just to be on the go, never stopping, and I was kind of pleasantly surprised that there was some platforming. I did feel like the jumping felt a little stickier, and again, this is kind of it's the first game in the series.
Yep.
And now that I have dabbled in 2 a little bit, they greatly improved on that in the second one, which I know we're not going to get deep into that game now, but that was I always felt like I was pushing it more than I wanted or I needed to.
No, I definitely get that. I mean, obviously you didn't get that the first time you played the game when you were 11 years old or whatever, but now, yes, when you go back and play it, it's definitely the controls were a little. Not even janky, but just
sticky.
Yeah, sticky is the best way to put it. But yeah, no. So I know exactly what you're saying there.
What is interesting is that there's only one button to use on the face button, right? There's no like Mario had the B button to make him run faster.
Yep, that was
Sonic
actually
is just always running.
Yep, yeah. Well, that was actually part of the design of the game. Is the goal of I don't know names, so. I'll know them when I read them in a book or something. But the designers of the game, the lead designer specifically wanted a game where you only needed to hit one button.
Nice.
So that was designed completely around that.
So really, if you think about it, you could play Sonic with like a joystick, like an Atari controller.
Wow, I didn't think about that, but yeah, you probably could.
Yeah. I don't know. That wouldn't be comfortable at all.
I wouldn't think so, but you could try it. I'm sure someone would.
So tell me what I got, because I didn't beat the game without doing the Chaos Emeralds because I cheated and used the save state.
Yeah.
What you mentioned when I beat it that I got the quote true ending.
Yeah.
So what is the true ending that I got that I wouldn't have gotten if I beat it normally?
Yeah, I don't want to like oversell that, but because it's like, you get the true ending is, you get all the Chaos Emeralds, so you stopped Robotnik's whole plan. And I don't know if you remember, but it's been so long since I've actually played the ending. I think like at the end of the game, if you have the Chaos Emeralds, like they come out, and I don't know if they show more of your buddies or something, but I want to say they go like plant flowers or something along those lines.
Oh, okay.
But at any rate, when you have all the Chaos Emeralds, there's a little bit more animation, and on the like after the whole animation where Sonic jumps and it's you beat the game, it goes to a the end screen, and when you have the Chaos,
Sonic like points at the camera.
So directly after that, which is directly after that, it goes to a screen where Robotnik's like he's angry and jumping up and down on the words "the end."
Ah, okay.
If you don't,
that wasn't in there.
Yeah, if you don't have all the Chaos Emeralds, it goes through that animation that you get that same thing with Sonic jumping at the screen, but the Chaos Emeralds obviously don't come out and do, like I said, I think they made plants grow or something all over the place.
Right.
And the next screen, the end screen, is Robotnik, and he's sitting there tossing the Chaos Emeralds around, and it just says, try again.
Oh, that's a pretty taunting way to...
Yeah. So I will say that the first time I beat the game when I was a kid, I did not get all the Chaos Emeralds because those special levels were hard as hell.
Yeah.
And like, unlike the following Sonic game, you only got one shot.
Right.
The special levels, once you went in, once you left, you couldn't go, that level was not available anymore. So yeah, by the time I got to the end and beat the game, I was like, oh, this is so great. It feels so good. And I was so pumped.
You have to get those on the first try?
Yes, you cannot. Each special stage is designated to that level. And
that is insane because those were hard, man.
Yeah. Well, I don't think it's necessarily designated to that level, but it goes in that order, and you only got one shot. So if you went into the first special stage and you hit the goal orbs without getting obviously you didn't get the Chaos Emerald. If you hit those, that was it. You did not get another shot at getting that Chaos Emerald. That's what I'm saying. That's why when you asked me about it, I'm like, well, good luck, because they're hard as hell. But at that point in time, I was kind of forgetting about the whole save state and all that fun jazz.
Yeah. It would have taken me a lot longer if I'd done that. So.
Yeah. No, yeah. So that's part of the reason why when you were texting me, is, hey, I got a Chaos Emerald. I'm like, are you freaking kidding me?
Yeah. I think I did get that first one, though, legit.
Okay.
Because, but I want to say I got it because I went into it a second time. I could be wrong. Maybe I did really exploit that save state, but yeah. So like when he's kept tossing those emeralds at the end, is he only tossing the ones that you didn't get?
Correct. Yes.
Oh, that's cool. See, that's like a little, I don't know. That's pretty neat.
Yeah,
which colors you missed.
That is a feeling I remember very well. Was that screen popping up for the first time after I beat the game, and it was just like you went from this euphoria of you finally beat the game to, oh hell no, like now. Not only it's not like an anger I have to go do it again. It's like now I need to go do it again and do it right. So at least it was for me.
So if you just missed one Chaos Emerald, he's just tossing that one.
Yep.
Taunting emerald that you missed.
Yep.
I can't imagine, because some of those are so hard to do, man.
If I remember, ironically, I think I want to say not the last one, but the last two or three before the last one were like the two or three easier ones there were to get.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. Like I said, I might be recalling that wrong, but I remember something along those lines.
Interesting. So for those that have never played Sonic like I did, it's like this crazy, the world is spinning left and right, and it's almost like a little pinball machine or pachinko machine.
Yeah, yeah.
And you got to work your way through to get to the Chaos Emerald without hitting the goal posts. If you do, it's game over. That's interesting. I will say I found the boss fights with Robotnik to be pretty easy.
Mm-hmm.
They're pretty basic, especially I was expecting this big confrontation at the end, and that last one was I just got to dodge these 4 balls that are really easy to dodge, and then just hope I get lucky between the 2 pillars. I don't know.
Yeah. No, it was like I said, I think that's one of the things, like when you're younger you appreciated it more.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's playing through it now would be, I definitely see where you would feel that way.
I mean, I can't talk. Mario had a giant lizard that you jumped under. And you know what I mean? That's all you did. So I can't.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So, but yeah, did you have any other questions for me about Sonic?
No, I seriously think we covered all the bases I was curious about. Is it an experience you enjoyed?
I did. I really did. The speed factor, I found myself getting frustrated when I couldn't keep a speed thing going.
Yeah. Yep.
Because I always was having this panicky feeling that I'm going to hit a spike or one of those red creatures that just wants to destroy me, and I just stop the momentum. That's the cool thing about the game, is you want to keep the momentum going, and it makes you want to try other ones, like some of the 3D ones where you can actually see the whole playing field ahead of you and feel like you're catching up speed.
Yep.
But
like Colors. Colors is a fun game.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah.
So what would be? I mean, I'm going to go chronologically just because that just seems like the thing to do. But what would you say is your favorite Sonic game in all the Sonic series?
My favorite Sonic game is Sonic 2. I
Sonic
mean,
2, okay.
hands down, no ifs, ands, or buts. And I will openly admit that a large part of that is the nostalgia factor.
Well, yeah.
But yeah, it's that game was just so amazing, and still is. Like that is one of the few games that I can pick up and play the whole way through in a couple hours, just one sitting, on a regular basis. Still, like that game, I still legit pick up and play through consistently. It's just I just get so much enjoyment out of it.
That's awesome. That's why we play these games, man, to go back and have those good feelings that we had when we were kids and try to get new ones with the newer games, right?
Yeah, right. When they're not
Nice.
500 hours long.
Yeah, exactly. Don't you kind of miss games that you can get through in like 3 or 4 hours sometimes?
I do. I really do.
Yeah. So that is Sonic the Hedgehog. I finally can say that I've beaten a Sonic game, although I guess technically I didn't beat it legitimately.
Yeah, you beat it.
But let's move on and talk about my favorite game of all time that you finally played and completed this afternoon, right?
Yep. Just a couple hours ago.
Very cool. So you kind of blasted through that game in what, about 2 weeks?
Yeah, about that. I think so.
Yeah, I feel like I got the short end, or you got the short end of the stick, because my game, I got to complete in a car ride on the way home from Michigan, but it's considerably longer.
Yeah,
to finish.
I mean, I will say I hope my boss isn't listening, because I was planning on taking it to work to finish it today, but that didn't end up happening, so that's okay if he is listening. But
okay.
No, this was again, I had dabbled a very little in this when I was younger, just basically watching a friend play, and every once in a while I'd get a chance to play at my uncle's house, but obviously I wasn't allowed to save or actually get into the game because he had his saves, and if I messed those up, God help me. But I do remember this being a really cool idea. It was something I enjoyed back then. But like I said, I never really got into it. So now I finally got a chance to actually sit down, dig into it, and really get my hands dirty. And
nice.
And yeah, it was a really fun, although hard game.
Hard in terms of the complexity of the puzzles?
Kind of, yeah. And this is not like I seriously, as I go through playing this is not a knock in any way, shape, or form. But I think I asked you one time when we were hanging out once about like I think Nintendo Power probably had a lot to do with this game's success.
Probably, because
there were times where I'd see something, and keep in mind, like I have played Ocarina of Time, so I do know some of the Zelda isms with the pushing blocks and the shooting stuff and everything. But there were a few times where I actually had to go, my goal was to play through this whole game without any help, without any guide. I'd use the save states, obviously, but I wanted to do it to get the full experience without anything outside influence, so basically without a guide. And there were a couple, I got to a spot where I'm just like, I cannot figure this out.
And the first time you got stuck?
The first time I really got stuck was, I can't remember what temple it was, but it turned out like you could tell that there was a false wall. Again, with the Zelda-isms.
Right.
You could tell there was a false wall, and there was a statue there. And like I said, from other Zelda games that I dabbled in, I knew that, okay, probably has something to do with the statue. So I hit the statue with my sword. I hit the statue with the boomerang. I put a bomb on the statue. I did everything but shoot an arrow at the statue.
Yeah.
So, but there was a reason I didn't shoot the arrows at the statue, because at this point in time, I mean, arrows are not plentiful. Right. You'd have to go work for them. You'd have to go, dig through some rocks or plants or kill monsters to get more arrows. And so it wasn't a finite resource. Right. So there was a reason I didn't shoot an arrow. And so like I said, I just got to that spot. I could not figure this out. So I went and looked up a guide, and sure as shit, just shoot an arrow at the statue.
Amazing. Yeah. I got stuck earlier than you did when I was a kid.
Okay. I probably did too, but that's the biggest one I remember early on.
Right. Well, and I don't mean to derail you, but I got to share this story because I've told it on the show before, so you might have heard it. But I remember as a kid, the first time you go to the Dark World, which I want to hear your reaction to that in just a second. But the first time you go to a dark world and you're turned into, I don't know.
Oh, the rabbit thing?
Yeah, you're turned into a rabbit.
Oh, yeah.
And you have the magic mirror, and I could not for the life of me understand how the magic mirror worked. My super young brain just was not computing. And I did not have a phone when we were kids. We did not have a landline phone.
Yeah.
So I had to bike down the street to a payphone with a quarter to call my buddy and say, dude, what do I do with the magic mirror? Can you help me out? And he actually walked me through it. I pedaled back home and then did what I needed to be able to get through that section. Is a story. So, yeah, I will never forget that. So shout out to Dave Babcock. He was my best friend in 5th and 6th grade. And yeah, he would help me out. I borrowed the game from him. That's the first time I played it.
That's cool.
Yeah. So I want to go more into your experience because we'll get to the dark world. But yeah, how did you feel when you saw that map the first time and you had 3 pendants and a sword to gather? Did you think that was it?
I did. I'm not gonna lie. And as I'm going through and I'm getting the first pendant and okay, cool. Then I get the second pendant. I'm like, this is going too fast.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is going to be shorter than a Mario game.
Right. And it was so hard not to say anything, dude, because I wanted you to just go to experience that fresh.
Yeah.
Because I knew you had to be going, man, this game is, why does Scott love this game so much? It's so short.
Yeah. I'm not going to lie. That thought did cross my mind. Maybe he just really loves the play and whatever. But yeah. But no, I like that was a thought that seriously came to mind. I was like, this is going to be shorter than a Mario game.
Mm-hmm.
And so then I got the 4th pendant and then next thing you know, there's this whole other world that is kind of like the same map, but it's a different map.
Yeah. The dark world.
Yeah. And I said, oh, okay. All right. This makes a little more sense now.
Uh-huh. And then you hit that map and you just see 7 crystals or whatever all across this massive map. And you're like, oh, now the game begins.
Yeah, pretty much. That was kind of it. I said, oh, and it was almost like an oh shit moment.
Uh-huh.
But I had gone through the previous ones fast enough to where it wasn't a bad thing. But yeah, it was an oh shit moment. It's like, oh, okay. All right, cool. Now this is what we're doing now.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. Boy, I have so many questions, but I know I don't want to take up all the time just talking about Zelda, but do you have a favorite dungeon?
Man, it'd be a toss-up between I don't remember what order they were in, but the ice one was really cool. And the last one.
The Turtle Rock one or the one when you actually fought Ganon?
The one where I actually fought Ganon. The turtle one was, that was cool, but that was a little too... I want to say, take a shot in the dark, because there was a lot of dark and having to try and those little platforms you had to go around, and they were cool for a bit, but then there was one that it honestly frustrated me.
Mm-hmm. The one where you have to shoot the little bricks to ride across, is that the one I'm thinking of?
I don't.
There's you basically have a wand that makes a platform.
Yeah. Yep, you have a wand that makes a platform, which took me forever to find out, by the way.
Oh yeah,
because I knew that it made blocks, but I did not know that it made a platform for that either. It took me going through that. I did not learn from a guide. I did figure it out on my own, but
nice.
That was literally sitting there going through every item I had and figuring out that that's what it took. But that was the piece that I'm talking about. There's a few different rooms in that dungeon that do that, and the first few are actually pretty cool. But then there's a big one where there's so many intersections, and I just kept getting lost, making wrong turns and trying to. But then I didn't remember where I did turn, so I didn't know I was probably turning the same way. It was probably literally one of those things where you're in a jungle and you just keep going around the same way, and you finally realize, hey, I've seen this tree before.
Right.
Only there wasn't a tree to see. But no, so like I said, that was a little frustrating, but I think that's one of those experiences where if you played this when the game was in its age, in its prime, that would not have been a frustrating experience. That would have been sit down, take time, get your notebook out, and okay, this time I went this way, this time I went this way, and would have actually been a pleasant experience.
Nice.
But
yeah, I used to make Zelda maps on grid paper when I was a kid.
Yes. I did that with a different game, so I know exactly what you're talking about.
Is it Dragon Warrior by chance?
No, it was Sword of Vermilion.
Oh, okay. Nice. I wanted to. You mentioned that one of your favorite levels was the ice level.
Yep.
Did you discover the fire rod on your own before you got to the ice level?
I think that was one where I had gotten there, and then I found out I needed something, because there was one dungeon where I had gotten there, and then I found out I needed something else, so I had to go back, and I did end up having to look at a guide for that. Mm-hmm. That might have been it.
Okay,
that might have honestly been it.
You can actually get the fire rod like very early on. It's just in the bottom right hand corner of the very bottom right hand corner. You just need bombs, I think, is all you need.
Okay,
and that was always felt like a cheat when I was a kid, because
I did not get it early, so that was probably the one.
Did you? And there was a place where you got to use the fire rod. You got a fire rod and an ice rod.
Yes.
And the boss at Turtle Rock was like that dragon with multiple heads.
Yes.
You know what I'm talking about? Did you catch their weakness there?
That was one of, there was 2 bosses where I went in and I said, oh, I know what I got to do here. Mm-hmm. And I was right. There were other bosses where I said, oh, I know what I got to do here. And I was way wrong.
Okay.
But that was one of 2 bosses where I went in and I said, ooh, like you feel your heart jump, and you just like, oh, I know what I got to do. And you go through and do it, and sure shit, that's exactly what you need to do. And it made for a fun experience. Yeah, it was cool.
Nice.
Yep.
What was the other one? Was it the hookshot boss?
Yes, that was the other one where like I walked in there and something in me just said, ooh, I know what I need to do here. And I pulled the hookshot out and I shot those little balls that he had circling around him, and it brought it to me, and I had to attack it, and that would get rid of it. And he had like 12 of them or something. And so those were 2 of the more fun boss fights too. I really enjoyed those.
I noticed in a screenshot that you sent me that you had quite a few heart containers. You only had like 4 that you did not get, which is impressive considering how quickly you went through the game, because some of those heart pieces are hard to find. Did you consult a guide for that, or did you just figure those out on your own?
Some of them I did figure out on my own. A lot of them I did use a guide for.
Okay.
I'll be 100% honest.
No, there's no shame in that. Did you catch what the use of the fairies were?
As far like which fairies?
Health.
Yeah.
The little fairies that you find like all around.
Okay. I mean, I used them to heal myself if I was low on hearts when I found them, or I put them in a bottle that I had.
There you go. Okay.
Yeah. But like I said, that I think also played, like, if I didn't play Ocarina of Time, I probably wouldn't have known that. But having played that beforehand, I kind of knew that was a thing.
Yeah. Were you aware that if you had them in a bottle and you took your last hit, it would bring you back to life and replenish your heart?
I found that out like through playing it. I did not know until that happened, because I think one of them, I actually sent you a screenshot where that had happened. And it wasn't even about that, but that was in the background, and you're like, did you do that? Yep.
Nice. Very cool. One of my favorite moments in the game was the 4th dungeon where you fought the boss. His name was Blind. And in order to get into that dungeon, you had to have the ocarina, and you had to summon the bird. That was the first time you got fast travel. And that noise that ocarina makes is actually like my ringtone on my phone for whenever I get a voicemail or something.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I just love that sound. That is so cool. But and that boss was cool too, because like Blind was like a thief, and he was your buddy, and then he turned out to be. I thought this whole thing was just so cool.
Yeah.
And was it the second one where you actually had to go back and forth between the dark world and the light world to manipulate the water in one temple so that it would be raised in the other?
Yeah, I remember that.
That was my huge aha moment in that game.
Okay.
I was like, oh, this game is awesome.
No, that was one, like, I did have an aha moment there too, because that was something I did figure out without the guide, but I had gone there earlier, and I did something on accident. And I think that's where I got one of the heart pieces, if I remember right. But it was way earlier in the game than, because I did something on accident, and I'm like, oh, I obviously can't do anything here yet. And then when I had gone back, so I had kind of already known, like if I didn't do that thing on accident earlier, I would not have known what to do when I got there, probably.
Right.
Like I might have figured it out sitting there for a while, but since I'd gone there and done that thing on accident earlier, I was like, oh, you know what? Since I bet, and sure enough, that was raising the water level so you could get across the thing once you could swim. The learning to swim was something I did have to consult a guide about again. Because I did not
Zora
know
flippers.
Yeah, I did not know to go find King Zora, and when he came up, so just like when I read the guide, I kind of read the very necessity of what I need to know and nothing else. So when that dude popped up, I thought I was going to have a boss fight.
Oh, okay.
I mean, it's this big monster looking dude. And I was like,
and all the other ones are shooting at you on your way over
exactly.
there. So.
Yeah. So I'm like, oh, okay, here we go. I don't know how I attack when I'm swimming, but cool. But yeah, he ended up being a friendly and giving me the flippers. Okay, cool. Thanks, dude.
Yeah. Did you immediately go swim into the waterfall then? Because that's like the big thing in that game.
I don't think I did.
There's a. I mean, it becomes like a staple in video games at this point. But you're in the water with the flippers. You just find a waterfall and you can actually just go push against it, and then he goes behind the waterfall, and there's like a heart piece or rupees or something behind there. It's
okay.
Always super satisfying when you just like try that for the first time and it works. You know
okay.
What I mean?
Yeah. No, I don't think I did that. Maybe I did. I don't recall.
I had another question. I can't remember before I wanted to get to the final boss encounter. I had something else I wanted to ask you about. But yeah, let's just go into how did you feel about the final fight against Ganon?
The final fight was a lot of fun.
Wasn't it cool?
It was, yeah. Up until that point, those other two boss fights were like this is like I seriously enjoyed, like to the point where I almost wanted to like go back to my save point and just go through them again because they were just fun. It was enjoyable fun. Nothing like convoluted like there is in games nowadays. It was just innocent fun.
No Elden Ring
exactly
boss battles.
But and then Ganon came. And just so you know, I did not realize that Ganon was not that sorcerer dude.
Yeah, that was I don't know how to pronounce it. Aganhim or something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
Aganahim.
Yeah. I thought that was like Ganon, the same person when I got there.
The priest that like split up the Triforce between the what were the girls called? The maidens.
Maidens, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And so when I killed him, I'm like, oh, cool. I finally, I beat it. I finally beat a Zelda game other than Ocarina of Time. And then this little bat thing starts flapping around and goes flying off, and my bird comes and gets me and takes me for a ride. And then this bat somehow just crashes through the top of a big temple building thing, and your bird drops you there. And okay, well, now I know what I got to do. But yeah, so I dropped down there, and that boss fight was really, really cool. And it was, I think part of the reason it was so cool is because even though it's intense, it gives you time to figure out what you need to do.
Right.
Like a lot of the other boss fights, they didn't give you a whole lot of time to figure out what you needed to do. If you didn't kind of figure it out quick, you're probably not going to do so hot. Right. But this boss fight it took me forever to figure out that I needed to light both of those torch thingies to be able to hurt him. And even when I did, I didn't realize what that did. So like when you did that, it turned him, like he would take a hit and be like paralyzed or something, and he would change colors. But then I would do something like hit him again with my sword and nothing would happen or whatever. And it took me a long time to figure out that I had to then shoot him with an arrow. And the only reason I thought about that was because of that stupid statue earlier in the game.
That's funny.
But
and that actually is a callback to the original Legend of Zelda, because in order to kill Ganon in the first game, you had to have light arrows. Oh. And in the final confrontation, it's very similar to that, where like he's actually invisible in the original game. Okay. And you have to just kind of like luckily stab him and hope that you're like close to him. And then he turns to stone, and then once he turns to stone, you hit him with the light arrow, and that's how you defeat him. Oh, so it was actually very much a callback to the original game, which is pretty cool.
No, that is cool, because he did kind of get invisible in this matchup as well.
Yeah, yeah,
but yeah.
It's tough in the original game.
That sounds
Man,
like it.
The original game is tough anyway. It's really, really hard. Don't feel guilty using a guide if you do play the original.
Okay.
Because some of the stuff you have to do in that game, there's no way I would have just randomly figured out that stuff.
Yeah.
Like, you have to go to this screen and burn the fourth bush over from the third screen to like just randomly, and that's like one of the dungeons. It's not even like, yeah, it's crazy. But you talked about the other wizard guy whose name I can never pronounce, but in my head as a kid I always pronounced it like Aganahim,
something like that. Yeah,
where you had to like deflect his fireballs. Did you figure that out right away, or was that?
No, I did not.
Okay.
I feel like that was something I feel like I had to do that. Like the first time you met him, you had to do that, right? Like, don't you meet him twice? Yeah. So, but that first time, it took me a little bit to figure that out as well. But then even going back there the second time, that also took me a minute because I didn't really remember that. I remember facing him, and it took me a little bit to say that this is what I did. Okay. And then, but then he's got the shadows too that are also shooting at you. So it adds more difficulty, and it was fun. But yeah, that the Ganon boss fight was like, I seriously, like I haven't just enjoyed a boss fight like that.
That's kind of the beauty of Zelda boss fights, is they're not, once you know the trick, it's just like going through the motions in a fun way.
Yeah.
What's interesting to me is that you don't remember doing the deflections before because you've done it before in another game.
Yes, I did in the Ocarina of Time. Yes.
Yep.
I do remember that.
Yeah, and it was actually against Ganon himself.
Was it? Or was that Ganondorf? I thought that was Ganondorf.
Well, you're right. Ganondorf is the humanoid
that
version of him.
Yeah, that was a weird thing. But yeah.
Yeah.
No, and that's seriously, I really think that is the only reason I thought of doing that against that wizard that first time.
Right. So, overall impressions. Did you like it? Did you love it? Do you think I'm crazy for my obsession of this? Does it warrant a favorite game of all time for anybody?
Oh no, I definitely get that. I mean, I will say that some of it was like, I just kind of put myself in the shoes of playing this for the first time when I was 12. You know, instead of playing it for the first time when I'm 42. Okay. Right. And with those nuances, and I do think, like I remember this game and what it was, and it was the go to school, talk to your friends on the playground, compare secrets. This is what you do here. This is what you do here. Oh, well, this is what I did, and this is how you get past this.
It's like what we're doing with Elden Ring right now.
Yeah, pretty much. But this was that game. This was the original of that game. So knowing that, I definitely get where this would be such a. I mean, it's a great game all on its own. Like I said, I thoroughly enjoyed my experience. But like I said, there were those few times where, like with that statue, and a couple other points where it was like, okay, this is definitely a community game. You know, I guess that's not the right phrase, but you know what I'm trying to say.
No, I understand. Where it's you're getting tips and tricks from your buddies or Nintendo Power or Nintendo toll-free hotline, right?
Yep.
So, well, Kevin, this was an absolute blast. I know we've kind of done this before because CB had never played it before. He actually didn't finish it though. So, since you finished it, I was very eager to talk to you about this game. And thanks for the challenge. You know, because I needed to beat a Sonic game, and I'm gonna. And now that I've got the Nintendo Switch Online, I can actually jump into Sonic 2.
Yep.
And then eventually Sonic 3 and Knuckles and some other ones. Colors, it sounds like is one that would be up my alley as well. So
I think you would really like Colors. Like cool. Out of all of the 3D games, I think that would fit you best.
Okay, just not the Switch version.
Yeah, I haven't played the Switch version, but from what I hear, it's not so hot.
Yeah, Zack has played the Switch version, and he says to steer far away from it. So. Well, let's go ahead and get out of here. Before we say goodbye, I just want to say thanks to all the Patreon supporters who are helping support the show. We do appreciate it. We love you guys. You guys are the reason that we're able to do this show each week. You pay for the show, and you help us do some giveaways for our listeners, with games that we purchase to review and then turn around and give away. So thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Once again, Kevin, thank you so much. This is Kevin's idea. It was just,
yeah, I seriously enjoyed this. This was really cool.
I think it's a fun way to do Break the Seal. Instead of it just being one game that one person hasn't played, we just kind of throw down the gauntlet and say, I'll play this game I've never played if you played this game that you've never played.
Yeah.
And then we can just kind of makes it a little bit more interesting. So well done, sir. Well done. All right, everybody. Thanks again so much. And be sure to listen to our regular episodes and tell a friend about these bonus episodes if you like them. We do put a lot of love and sweat and tears into them. So appreciate if you tell a friend and help us get some more support for the show. But remind you one last time before we head out of here, there's no such thing as a bad game, just games that aren't for you. Greetings, programs, and welcome to another Patreon-exclusive episode of The Gaming Outsider. I'm here with Mr. Zack Parkerson. What's up, man?
What's up?
This is our 8th Desert Islands episode, man. This has become a thing. I am enjoying doing this. Are you enjoying it?
Of course, yeah. We're getting close to number. Are we going to do like you at number 10? Is that the idea?
Well, I think we should do both of us at number 10.
Once.
Just you and me going back and forth and doing our own top 5 games of all time and Desert Island games. We haven't done that yet.
Swear to fucking God if Portal 2's on your list.
You know it's going to be on there, man. But it's not our week to do this. We've got a very special guest joining us. This is our episode where we basically get to know one of our community members with a segment we've called Desert Island Games. What better way to get to learn about one of our supporters, not only their favorite games of all time, but what games they would choose if they were stranded alone on an island with no one around for an extended period of time. And it gives us great pleasure to welcome to the show this week's guest from the podcast Quest Markers, Marina Ryan. Marina, how you doing?
Good. Thank you so much for having me. Really excited to be here.
We are stoked to talk to you because Zach and I are both listeners of your podcast Quest Markers.
Big fan.
Can you give those of our listeners that have not checked you out yet, like a synopsis? What is Quest Markers?
Yeah, absolutely. So Quest Markers is about a monthly-ish podcast that focuses on game narratives. So I found about a year ago, I was kind of looking for more podcasts to listen to, and I didn't really find anything that was kind of going really, really deep into game narratives. I found a couple of Zelda podcasts that would go deep into the Zelda series, but outside of that, I was finding it really difficult to find anything that was kind of covering general games, kind of across platforms, across consoles. And I remember in 2018, this is a while ago, I was talking to a friend. I was like, I really want to start a podcast. I think it'd be really fun. And I think those two kind of ideas came together. And I was like, oh, maybe I should start a podcast that focuses on games and specifically game narratives. And did a test episode for Majora's Mask, actually, that we're going to re-record, and it ended up going okay, but it helped us kind of understand what the stride was going to be, and from there, started releasing monthly episodes on game narratives. So we explore kind of anything and everything that me and the guests want to explore, whether it's characters or music or the environment or how we felt playing something, and it's been a lot of fun. So Zach, loved having you for Near Replicant, and Scott, excited to have you soon for A Link to the Past.
I'm very much looking forward to it because I mean, if you've listened to our regular episodes, that's my favorite game of all time. Not just because of the narrative, but it will be fun to kind of go in and dissect the narrative aspect of that game. So looking very forward to it.
Me too.
One of the questions we ask everybody on this particular show is how you discovered The Gaming Outsider. And I genuinely don't know. All of a sudden I get a text from Zach saying, hey, I'm going to be on this podcast. I don't know how you guys connected, how you found each other, who found whom. How did that happen?
Yeah. So actually about a year ago, one of my friends was on a Desert Island episode, Snoke Boy. And yeah, so when he spoke about in his episode, which I re-listened to yesterday in preparation for this, he spoke about a friend that played Nier Automata, and now her and him just bother all of our other friends to play Nier Automata. That was me. So that's how I discovered the show. So it feels really strange now to be on the show, having been a listener from that point, which was about a year ago, I want to say.
Oh, wow. And
Yeah.
you've been listening to the regular episodes ever since then?
I have, yeah. Yeah.
That's so cool. I'm honored.
Yeah, you were talking about Tears of the Kingdom in one of the recent ones, and I was like, oh, I don't know if I agree with much of this, but if we start talking about that, I'll digress. Yeah.
Oh, we're gonna have to talk after we're done
We
recording.
will,
'Cause
yeah.
I'm really curious now. I'm actually in a weird limbo state with Tears of the Kingdom right now. I stopped playing it right before vacation with full anticipation to play it on vacation, but I had to play Grandia 2 for a Patreon episode, and that consumed all of my gaming time when I was on vacation, and I just haven't got back to Tears of the Kingdom because Diablo 4 happened, and now Final Fantasy 16 has happened.
Yep.
So I've got to get back in there. CB's been bugging me because he wants to do a spoiler cast about. Apparently, the story gets really great at the end, and I don't know
Tears of the
if
Kingdom?
that's true yet. Yeah,
I've heard that from everybody, which is a surprise because the ending of Breath of the Wild sucked.
yeah.
I have
That's a
so many thoughts, and if I
we're gonna have to talk.
start, we're
won't
like
stop?
we're not even gonna do.
You know what we
today's
should do,
episode.
Marina, is we're planning to do a spoiler cast for Tears of the Kingdom. We should just have you on that episode.
I would love to.
when CB and I do that.
I would love
'cause,
to.
As long as you don't mind waking up at 8:00 in the morning your time.
No, that's perfectly fine. I think I have some controversial views on Tears of the
Okay.
Kingdom.
Oh,
I would-
As a massive, like, I grew up on Zelda.
Me too.
I have played and replayed Zelda games so many times, but I think I have some controversial views on Tears of the Kingdom.
Remind me when we're done recording. I'm going to show you my Zelda shrine.
Yes, I would love to
When
see
we're
it.
done.
I would love to see it.
I'm pretty proud of it.
Look,
So, but anyway,
Wait, hold on. Wait, Marina, is your favorite Zelda game in your top 5?
spoiler alert.
It's actually not, and maybe that's
Whoa.
a good segue into the criteria and the framework that I used for
Sure.
Okay.
my Desert Island games, because and I do have some honorable mentions of some of my favorite games, but the way that I approached this was looking at it through kind of 6 different criteria. The first one being, is it a narrative game that I'm bringing or is it not? Is it solo or is it multiplayer? What's the replayability factor? How large is the game and how enjoyable would it be to play? And also, what can I play for an extended period of time that I wouldn't also mind replaying? So, Zack, for Near Replicate, like if I need to go back to the junk heap one more time,
Right. Well,
never again.
yeah.
I played that game once, and I was sick
Yeah.
of going back to the junk heap.
That's exactly
So,
it. And so I had kind of that mechanic in mind of like, if I was forced to play only 5 games for an extended period of time, what would I bring? So I do have an honorable mentions list that do include some of my favorite Zelda games, but Zelda didn't make it onto this list. I think it's because for the games that I would want to bring, I've just played them so many times. Hopefully my list will make sense once we've gone through it.
I'm excited. I'm totally intrigued now. I think you're the first person to give us like a breakdown of the criteria for their decisions to this level of detail.
I really
Since
thought
we've been
about
doing
this.
that. So, well, that's awesome. I got one question though before we
Yeah.
get into your top 5 games of all time. It feels appropriate to ask you, how are you keeping hydrated?
Hey.
Thank you for asking. I've got my coffee, which I think some people think that that's hydrating, and some people think it's dehydrating. But I always have a glass of water. Like I have
Nice.
to, otherwise I don't drink water, which is a good cue to drink a little bit.
Yeah, I feel
what
like
about you drink?
I am also dehydrating. I'm just drinking a domestic, Boston lager here from the States.
Excellent.
But what's interesting is I feel like the time I drink the most water is when I'm drinking beer, because I have a hard fast rule that I drink a glass of water in between every drink because I'm
Smart.
too old. I'm too old for hangovers, so I just stay hydrated while I'm drinking.
Excellent.
If only I could keep that going on in my daily life, I'd be awesome. But
Excellent.
Zach, what about you? How are you keeping
I'm not
hydrated?
drinking anything right now. Now I feel unprepared.
Oh wow!
I'm sorry. It's just going in here dry. I started the morning with espresso water, so the
There you go.
usual in
Excellent.
that way.
Amazing.
All right. Well, Marina, before we get into your desert island games, we always like to ask everybody your top 5 favorite games of all time. You've already given us your criteria, and you can do this in any order you want to. If you want to go 5 to 1, or if you want to say no particular order, you go for it. We'll comment as you go. I'm very excited to hear your list.
So this is really difficult. Like wildly difficult to put together a top 5
Yeah.
list. So I'll also have some honorable mentions on here, but
Mhm.
in no particular order except for like my top 2 games.
All right.
I have a
Firstly-
suspicion about number 1.
Oh, so do I.
Well,
Oh,
you know,
yeah, we both got it.
Yeah. I don't want to give it away.
we'll get there. We'll get there.
Yeah.
All right.
But I always kind of go back and forth on what my favorite Zelda game is, and I only wanted one Zelda game in this list, so I don't know if it's a true top 5. But I
Okay.
love Majora's Mask deeply. Like
Oh,
I
it's the best,
love
it's the best one.
love Majora's Mask. What it explores and how it kind of takes you through the 5 stages of grief with, like, at the end, you know, spoilers for anyone who hasn't played it. You know, when you're at the Stone Tower Temple, like you ask you bring the heavens to your feet as I think symbolism of like I've overcome this. I'm about to overcome my grief. Like I think it's such a beautiful game. The NPCs feel so alive, and for that time as
Yes.
well. You know, Ocarina of Time is fantastic. I love Ocarina of Time. It's absolutely a masterpiece. But there's something really special about Majora's Mask. So I've got Majora's Mask on there. Hollow Knight, I really love Metroidvanias, and Hollow Knight was just like a weird, dark game that ended up being way more story driven than I thought it was going to be.
Really?
Absolutely love Hollow Knight. Love
Hollow Knight is definitely not graced either of these lists, I don't think.
Love Hollow Knight.
I never.
So good.
I guess I never understood it had like more story than it let on. I guess it always looked like a story light to me.
I will admit, Marina, I've not finished Hollow Knight, and a big part of that is because I did not realize how massive that game is. That was like, what, a $15 game at launch? And I feel like that's easily a 15 plus hour gear gated game.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I think I put 30 hours into it before I finished it. It's massive. It's absolutely massive. There's a lot of lore that you get kind of in a way where it's not told chronologically. It's very interesting. Narratively, it's a really, really interesting game. So Majora's Mask, Hollow Knight.
Can we go back before you go to your
Yeah.
third one, just because like we didn't get a chance to talk about? 'Cause
Yeah.
Zach and I differ on our opinions of Majora's Mask
Oh my
by
God.
a long shot.
Well, it's the
but
best
I
one.
will.
It is. I mean, come on.
I mean, here's the thing. I played through that game once. I played it after coming off of my high of Ocarina of Time. Absolutely could not wait to play it. And it was the first Zelda game I played as a kid where I felt I had to force myself to make my way through it because from a gameplay standpoint, the dungeons were fantastic, but the stuff in between was keeping me from the things that I played Zelda for, if that makes sense. The really cool dungeons and the upgrades and all that kind of stuff. The things that you guys love about Majora's Mask, I'm not saying are terrible things. They're good things because there's something different. But as a teenager, those weren't the reasons I played Zelda games, is I wanted the clever puzzles that made me feel smart, which we'll get into when we do your Quest Markers episode, Marina, on Link to the Past. So I feel like I need to replay Majora's Mask as a 43-year-old adult now with more mature eyes going into it. I actually did start it. Didn't I talk about that like a couple months ago, Zach? I went back and started on Nintendo Switch Online because I wanted to revisit it and just kind of give it a second shot to see what I missed from the first time that I played it. But do you have more to add to that, Zach?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I think I was young enough where it actually kind of influenced. Like, I was like, oh, this is what I want from games. All these characters, with these fully fleshed out personalities and storylines. And, I know you hate timers, Scott, but the timer works for this game because everyone's got a schedule they keep during those 3 days. And, you can...
Drove me crazy.
Oh, dude. But when you reunite that couple that get them married by the end, I mean, your heart
so
melts, Scott. It's so good. Beautiful stuff.
Fair enough.
And I remember, the young boy side of me. I remember that cool golden sword you got. That was pretty sick.
So cool.
Yeah, awesome.
I don't know if I ever got the gold. Was that a side thing or was that part of the regular
It
game.
was a side thing, and if I remember correctly, Marina, it was only good for like 100 sword swings or something like that, or 1,000 sword swings.
Yeah, you had to upgrade it twice before you got the one that was like permanently upgraded.
Yeah, I remember. So it was
It's cool
wow,
sword,
that's
though.
a bold move.
yeah, you
Yeah.
really had to invest.
Yeah,
That's
You
the
have to
whole
be
game.
prepared.
This whole game's about making hard choices, Scott.
that's it.
That's true. And I do also want to mention on Hollow Knight, which Marina talked about, Zack. That's one that I would really like you to go back and check out at some point, because
Mm.
it's one of the more difficult gear-gated games I've played. I don't want to say quite to the level of like a Dark Souls, but the twitch reflexes required to fight some of those bosses are impressive. Especially for, it sounds weird to say this, but like that was a very cheap game, $15, I think, brand new, and just the size and scope of that game, the storytelling that Marina's talking about, the world building, everything is just kind of not explained. It's just given to you as like, this is the way it is, and you're just gonna have to pick it up as you go along. Are things that I think you would appreciate in that series, and the art style is really awesome as well.
hmm
Sounds
And it
cool,
was
yeah.
developed by 5 people over, I don't know if the development time is true, but what I've read online is over 18 months. And that
Wow.
game
That's
is massive.
Nuts.
Massive. Yeah.
Team Cherry, is that the
Team
developer, I
Cherry.
believe?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they're certainly taking more than 18 months for Silksong.
I'm
That's true.
dying for Silksong to come out. Dying.
I would like to say I'm dying for Silksong, but I never finished Hollow Knight, so I feel kind of guilty. But one of these days. Anyway, I didn't mean to throw you off the rails there, Marina. What is your third game in your top 5?
So I feel like this is a toss-up between Final Fantasy VII Remake,
Oh.
one of my favorite battle systems in
Oh, yeah.
any game.
God,
in
yeah,
any
that's
game.
good.
And like I'm comparing that very much to 16, which I'm playing now. And I'm like, man, an FF7 remake though, you could switch characters.
Right.
Doesn't that seem so missing in 16?
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely. I'm like, why
there's
can't
no-
I play as anyone else?
there's no gear management of your party.
Strange.
I was saying,
Like,
the weirdest thing for me is that there's no party banter.
Yeah,
like-
there's a little bit, but not as much as I would have liked
Yeah.
to have seen. Although I'm behind you, Zack, so
It
Yeah.
does not improve. I mean,
well, that sucks.
but it is
But-
good. There's like one fight where they actually did have party banter, and I was like, oh my God, see, this could have been the game.
Right. Exactly. No, but FF7 Remake was fantastic. And I played the original before I played Remake. And yeah, that battle system is incredible. I love the story, how it talks about
Oh,
it.
yeah.
Very much talks about real world issues, right? Of
yeah.
okay, well, there's a corporation that has now become the police and has also become the government. What are the repercussions of that politically, which I think is really interesting. I think the cast is really charming.
Oh, yeah.
Excuse me, the music is fantastic. Like that battle theme is so good in FF7 Remake. But it's a toss-up between FF7R and I just finished Dragon Age Inquisition a couple weeks ago. And
Oh.
I won't go too much into depth into Dragon Age because it's on my Desert Island games, but I was really, really impressed by the branching narrative in Dragon Age and how like dialogue changes based off of who's in your party and where you're at and how far into the story you're at. And I was looking at it partially from a developer's perspective as well, where I was like, oh my God, how the amount of effort that went into this and the synergy between the teams that they had to have had in order for all of this to work the way that it did was really, really impressive. So narratively, a lot of Dragon Age Inquisition really, really impressed me. But anyway, that's one of my Desert Island games, spoiler alert. So we can go into that a little bit more in a bit.
So are you putting, which one are you putting in your top 5 then?
I don't know.
It's a toss-up.
I don't know.
Bending
It's
the-
a toss-up.
Bending the rules.
This is my top 5 also changes all the time, except for a couple of games that we'll get into.
Have you met Zack?
Yeah.
It's
Zack changes
hard.
his top 5, and I'm not teasing you, Zack. This is all in love. He's changed his top favorite game of all time about 4 times since I've started recording with him.
There's a lot of good games out there.
That's
There's
it.
a lot of good games out
Exactly.
there. So
Exactly.
back to Final Fantasy Remake. I know you were talking about the battle system, and I'm maybe in the minority of this, but I love the battle system in 15, and I feel like 7 perfected that. That combination of turn-based and action at the same time, which I'm missing in 16. 16 is just straight action to the point where it doesn't even feel like an RPG anymore. I'm just arbitrarily leveling up, because I have to in a Final Fantasy game. But 7 just did such a good job of making the perfect mixture of both of those types of battles that I just really, really appreciated. So I like that pick. I've been toying with going back and replaying that one because I know we're like a couple years away from part 2 Rebirth. Is that what it's called?
Supposedly next year.
Yeah, so January, right?
Apparently it's early 2024. Yeah.
I was kind of holding out hope that they were going to release it on Xbox so I could go through and play it again and earn some achievements, but with everything going on in the video game industry right now, that seems pretty unlikely. But I may just have to.
Which is weird, right? Because PlayStation hates exclusives.
Absolutely. Yeah.
True. All right, Marina. So you got 2 left in your top 5 of all time. These are the 2 you said that are your top 2.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you have one that is like an ultimate fit? Is there going to be one that's going to be priority over the other here?
They're, in my perspective, they're equal footing. Like, I was just so impressed. I mean, one of them, but and we'll save that one for last. But okay. Final Fantasy 14 is I was so impressed when I started playing FF14 just over a year ago. And the folks that I knew who had finished the main scenario quests, were like, this is the best Final Fantasy. And I was like, this is an MMO. I grew up playing MMOs, and the MMOs that, I never played Warcraft because I was like, oh, I want to play something else because everyone's playing Warcraft. I was that kid.
I respect that. That's exactly what I would have done.
Yeah. And so I played like weird MMOs that no one has ever heard about. And all of them were like, okay, please go get me some hide from this animal. Off you go, And that was always kind of the story. And sometimes you go battle a vampire. And so going into it, I was like, I went into it with some trepidation because of the amount of MMOs that I had played. I should not have doubted that team at Square Enix. The first 3 expansions, there's actually a great documentary about what they call 1.0, which was Final Fantasy 14 that you can no longer play anymore because it didn't do well. Yeah, because it didn't do well before Yoshi P, the current producer, joined the team. And the first 3 expansions do a lot of world building, a lot of world building. It's really deep. I think people call the first one really MMO-y, but once you get to Shadowbringers, it flips everything on its head. Such a unique story. And then you get to Endwalker and you're like, oh my God, the seeds for this story were sown over 150 gameplay hours ago.
Oh my God.
What?
50 hours.
Like, genuinely, absolutely insane what they were, what they sought to do and what they successfully did with Endwalker. And now I understand it, where people were like, I'm going to replay all of the main scenario quest, all of MSQ. And I'm like, dude, that's going to take you, 40, 50 hours in expansion? What do you mean you're going to replay MSQ? And now I get it. Now I get it. Because I'm like, oh my God, I want to replay MSQ now to see how they sowed these seeds. I was wildly impressed by Endwalker's narrative. There's a reason it has a 92 on Metascore. So
kind of like when you watch The Sixth Sense for the first time and you immediately want to go back and rewatch the movie to see all the little clues.
I've never watched Sixth Sense.
Oh, well, I won't spoil it for you then.
So it's also, no offense to Sixth Sense, a great movie, but it's a lot less impressive on a 2-hour scale than a 200-hour scale.
Right. Well, I was just going to say that too, is like you almost sold me on trying my first MMO, because I've literally never played an MMO because I'm scared to death of them.
That's fair.
Not because of quality, but because I am so worried that I will like it way too much.
Yep.
And then I will never play anything else again.
That's fair. And I have been debating whether to share my playtime. I am not sharing my playtime. I've only played this game for over a year. I'm way too embarrassed to share how many hours I have.
There's nothing to be embarrassed
about. In FF14. No, like I put more hours into this
number.
game than like any other game that I have ever played. It's in the hundreds.
We're gonna know the number by the end of this episode.
Maybe.
Drag it out of it.
Maybe. No, but 14. I mean, just narrative wise, when you look back and you're like, no way, you did this in the very first expansion, and now that's a callback. Not a callback. It's like a major thing. At the end of this story arc, you sit there and you're like, oh my god, can I have this writing team write every other game ever?
What?
It's incredible.
And to think they had the patience, right? Because expansions take years to come out, right? And they were able to restrain themselves for that's pretty unusual in this day and age. Restraint in storytelling.
Yeah,
I am so curious, especially because of your love for narrative as much as you do. I feel like I gotta experience this. Story, but 150 hours.
You want to jump in together, Scott?
I kind of do. I'm gonna have to get up at like 3:00 in the morning every day for the next 3 years to get through this. So you and I can play for like 90 minutes before I go teach children.
It'd be great. When I tried it years ago, I was a very cute cat boy, and I could be your cat boy. Yeah.
There you go.
Think about that.
It's so good.
It'd be my first foray into MMOs with you, Zach. Just you and me.
90 minutes a week at a time. We'll get through it.
90 minutes a day.
Wow. Okay.
We could do that in a year, couldn't we?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how many hours it takes. Marina's not sharing.
She said 150.
Probably like I'd say probably like 40 to 50 hours in expansion if you're just playing story.
Okay. So
and there's 5 expansions.
Yeah.
So
oh my goodness.
Holy cow.
Yeah. And the first three are very much world building. Who are the characters? Who plays what role? And then you get to Shadowbringers, and you're like, oh my god.
Is that like the ending? Is it an ending, or is it still going to continue?
Well, they have released post Endwalker now, so it feels as though they're gearing up for another expansion. I mean, like from a business perspective, an MMO just brings in revenue every single month, right? So. Yeah. There's no way that they're not going to keep making.
We still get press releases on Final Fantasy 14.
Yep.
We still get them at 11.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do get them at 11.
Yeah. It's so good. That's all I want to say. Like, I don't want to spoil anything for either of you if you pick it up, but I understand now for the people who were like, Endwalker is the best Final Fantasy story. I'm like, I get it.
All right, Zach, I think I'm going to have to add this to my Desert Island games.
Oh, yeah.
Just immediately. If you and I don't put these games on our list on our 10th episode of Desert Island games. Anyway, so go ahead, lay it on us. Your number one favorite game of all time.
I mean, Nier Automata.
Very good game.
It's so good. And I played Automata a bit after it came out. So I played it in 2021. And for some reason, and I think it's probably kind of what I was going through personally, it just hit. Every moment hit so hard. I won't spoil too much, but it is a very story-driven, very emotional game, and it questions what does it mean to be alive and what does it mean to live a life of meaning in a way where you would think that, I think media tries to tell that story and tries to question the audience with that, I think fairly frequently, whether in film or a TV show or a game. But there's something about the way that Automata is written, I think, that from a pacing perspective, you're like, oh my God, I was not anticipating for this to happen. And I love when a game surprises me. I cried every 30 minutes playing Automata.
It's a bunch of surprises in that game.
Oh, it's so good. The battle system is fantastic. Like, it's so stylish. It is really fun. There's a lot to do in the game, despite the map not being too big. There's a bunch of side quests, and the side quests actually elevate the story, which is really nice. A lot of games, and not to maybe trash other games, but like I love Xenoblade Chronicles 1. The side quests in Xenoblade Chronicles 1 are, hello, can you go find me these 3 radishes and bring them back to me? In Nier Automata, the side quests are, oh my God, I'm like questioning this part of life when you finish them. Masterpiece.
Some side quests are game enders, if I remember correctly.
Yep.
wasn't there one quest like you for killing all the robots in the one camp, just like you get roll credits all of a sudden?
Yeah, there's a lot of endings that are joke endings in Automata. So I want to eventually do. I haven't platinumed anything because I'm not a completionist, but I pick up Automata from time to time and play a bit more on my save file just to see if I can complete it without a guide. Like get to 100%, get all the endings, get all the trophies.
That game, I think, is a fun platinum, unlike Replicant, which is not a fun platinum because
I would not
live in the junk heap for 50 hours waiting for a rat tail to drop.
That's it.
Great.
I love Replicant. Replicant, I think, is one of my favorite casts, if not my favorite cast in gaming. Just perfect. And Zach, we've spoken about this so much. Such a incredible cast. But Replicant is a hard game to recommend as well because of the amount of like going back to areas and doing the same thing over and over again.
See, that's interesting because I finished Replicant.
Yeah.
I did not finish. I say Automata.
The game says Automata, even though it's wrong.
I'm happy to be wrong. That's fine.
No. The word should be Automata. You're correct. The game says Automata.
Automaton.
Yes, it drives me nuts that the translation team decided that. Let's go with the incorrect pronunciation.
According to Zach, I was very close to the end of the first ending, though, and I think he hasn't forgiven me yet.
He was on Route A, and he's fighting Eve.
Scott!
Maybe, 5 minutes from the ending?
Yeah.
I tried like 5 tries to beat that boss, and I just
gave up.
Very frustrated.
It makes you do like a very Sonic Adventure 2 thing with the platforming, where it's like, this is not meant to be a platformer. Why are we doing this? Yeah.
Sonic Adventure 2. See, better sales pitch. Such a great game, obviously.
Oh, such a great game. Such a great game. Yeah.
All right, Marina, you've given us your top 5 favorite games of all time. Can you run through them very quickly one more time, just so we get them all in order as a reminder?
Yeah. Majora's Mask, Hollow Knight, Final Fantasy VII Remake, or Dragon Age Inquisition.
/ Dragon Age.
/
Final Fantasy 14 and Nier Automata.
Nice. Very big fan of Final Fantasy, for sure.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so we're going to go on to your Desert Island games. This is different from your favorite games of all time because sometimes your favorite game may not be the game that you want to play for an extended period of time. So, again, if you were stranded on a desert island for an unknown amount of time, you only had 5 games to pick from. This sounds like a dream scenario to me, by the way.
Absolutely.
Like, any internet I want, any game that I want, for no responsibilities except, get some coconuts to keep myself alive for a while, and every other moment of the day is going to be playing these games. What 5 games are you choosing to play for however much time you've got on this deserted island?
Well, first of all, Scott, I agree with you. That sounds like a dream scenario. I would love that.
It does.
But again, my framework for thinking about this was, is it a narrative game or not? Is it solo or multiplayer? What's the replayability factor? How large is the game? Is it enjoyable? And can I play it for an extended period of time? So the first game that's on the list, I'm going 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Oh, okay.
Is Dragon Age Inquisition.
The worst Dragon Age. Bold choice.
What do you mean? It's the only Dragon Age that I've played. I'm very keen to play Origins and 2. And I'm very excited for Dreadwolf. Having finished Inquisition and being like, there was one character, Zach, that I really didn't like from the start. And then at the very end cutscene, I was like, I knew it.
Yes.
I knew it. You were sketchy from the beginning.
Now,
but the thing is, I didn't have enough affinity.
Oh,
sorry, go ahead.
The cliffhanger's less exciting when you've been waiting 10 years for the resolution.
Right,
I will say
that. That's fair. That's fair. But that one character, I was like, I didn't even have enough affinity with them to be able to do their quest. Because I was like, I just don't like you. You're so sketchy. You're talking about being friends with demons. We have been fighting demons this entire time, sir. Anyway, I think Dragon Age Inquisition has a lot of replayability because you make so many decisions in the game, and it has this beautiful branching narrative, and you decide like what race are you going to be, what class are you going to be, but also like what type of weapon are you going to specialize in. You can play with different party members. You make a big decision towards the start, and there's kind of a political story behind this of whether you support mages or whether you support Templars, which changes kind of the your playthrough. I supported mages in my playthrough,
Oh,
but
so
I also played Zack. I played a Dalish elf mage.
Okay.
And I didn't understand what that meant until I was
Oh,
like,
yeah,
oh,
wow.
now you're praising me as
damn.
this religious figure, but I'm
Yeah, I
not
didn't
even,
think
I don't
about
even
that.
believe in what you believe. So very strange playthrough, but it made for some really great
Es-
dialogue.
Especially for because
Yeah.
especially for someone jumping in at Inquisition.
Yeah.
That's interesting perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because like all of my dialogue options, I was like, I don't even believe in your faith. Like, why are you upholding me as the spiritual figure?
Right. That's interesting.
Yeah, a lot of dialogue. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I just want to say for the record, I say worst Dragon Age. It's only it's still great. It's just my
Yeah,
least
it's
favorite of the
fantastic.
three. I mean, Origins is just in another class unto itself, in my opinion. but
I'm very excited for
it
Origins.
desperately needs a remake or a remaster or something. It's just it's so stranded right now. But if you like all the branching choices, you're in for a treat with Origins because
So excited.
it's called Origins because you get to pick like one of 6 different origins, but it impacts like every conversation you have. I don't know how the hell they made that game.
Yeah, and you can import the choices that you make into 2, and then you can import those choices into Inquisition as well. Obviously, like Inquisition is my first one, so I had nothing to import. But yeah, the dialogue options were insane, and they would take you down different narrative paths, and the game changes around all of this. And so, from like replayability factor, it's like, whoa, there's a lot of replayability in Inquisition. I also just really enjoyed some of the party members as well, and just having them in my party. So I had Cassandra in my party a fair bit. I had Varric, Dorian, and Iron Bull mostly, and then I would like switch out. For some reason, the AI on Varric for me was just he would just like go into battle, and I'd be like, Varric, I need you over there, please. You are ranged DPS. Please go over there, and he would just like run straight into battle. And so I was like, I need to bring out someone else. But yeah. Fantastic game. It's massive, and just the lore is really, really deep. And so when I think about, oh, go ahead.
Have you gotten into any of the books or comics or anything yet? Are you that deep?
I haven't yet, so I need to start the DLC, but I'm playing Final Fantasy 16 now. But I need to start the DLC. I'm very keen for Trespasser. I know nothing. Like I go into all games being like, don't tell me anything. I don't want to know. I want to experience it myself. But very keen for Trespasser. So we'll see.
Okay. Yeah.
So good though. So it's like if you're going to be stranded on a desert island, it's like this has so much replayability.
You both are speaking Greek to me. I have a I have a weird thing with BioWare games. Like I cannot for the life of me get into BioWare games, and you think I would, being a massive fan of narratives as I am, and I struggle.
That's fair.
What Dragon Age Origins, they always cited one of their major inspirations was a Song of Ice and Fire. Only at that time, nobody knew what the hell that meant.
Yeah.
Oh, they hadn't played Final Fantasy 16 yet.
No, nor did HBO produce one of those popular television shows in history.
All right. So, what is your number 4 desert island game that you would choose if you were stuck on a desert island?
Number 4. I think people who know me, who may or may not be listening to this, would be very surprised at this choice. It's Animal Crossing. It has so much replayability. It's a sandbox game.
The original?
I have played the original. I used to rent the original. This is going to age me. I used to rent the original at Blockbuster as a kid, and I loved it. No, New Horizons, because it's a sandbox. It's like you build, you rebuild. You can have different villagers on your island. There's a bunch of crafting that I have yet to really do in the game.
It's kind of a forever game, isn't it?
It truly is, because you're never going to repay your mortgage.
Right. He's not gonna
exactly. So, it kind of does feel like a forever game. Even if you finish like collecting all the fish and fossils and whatever for the museum, you can always, change the layout of your home. You can always start again on a new island. It's a sandbox game. And I don't play a lot of sandbox games. But one of my friends convinced me to get New Horizons. And it's also like you can play solo, you can play multiplayer. So like if I'm stranded on an island, I can just invite my friends to come to my island, and then we can do silly things on the island, And
if you're feeling homesick, you can, live the fantasy of fighting your way out of debt like you do in your own life.
Exactly. Absolutely. 1,000%. 1,000%. Capitalism the game.
My only attempt in Animal Crossing was it New Leaf? Is it the one that was on? It was originally a Switch game, right?
Is it DS, right?
Was it
I
DS?
think so.
Yeah, I think New Leaf was DS.
Was it really? Okay, man, I'm old.
Well, yeah.
Shut up. I didn't try New Horizons because when I played New Leaf, it felt like Chores the video game to me. Like I was just running around doing tasks for somebody else the entire time. And I'm married. I live that for real. So I don't. I don't need
that's
that.
why you do all. That's why you do all the fetch quests in games, huh? Because then you get to do chores for you. Damn it!
Exactly, man. Now you're
That's
getting
it.
it. It's for me.
That's
I
it.
like it. So
I feel like there's less chores in New Horizons.
There must be, because that game was
Yeah.
so fucking popular when it came out.
It was really, but it also came out in March 2020.
Right. No,
So
well,
it's like, yeah.
best marketing ever.
Truly. I mean, yeah. And it's just so accessible, right? So like, you know, I have games on here that are multiplayer that are completely inaccessible to people who would not consider themselves capital G gamers. And, you know, I would want to be able to interact with my friends who don't consider themselves big gamers. So Animal Crossing's got to be on the list. Although I think many people would be surprised because I'm like, the next thing I want to play is Elden Ring. Like, I normally don't play sandboxing games.
fuck, Elden Ring's pretty good.
I'm so excited. I'm so excited. I played a tiny, tiny bit of Elden Ring, and I beat Margit, damn it, after like 3 hours.
Oh, nice.
I beat Margit.
3 hours. That's not bad.
I don't know.
For real.
I have no sense. I don't.
That was me.
Yeah.
I'm not being, that
Thank
wasn't
you.
being
That's very kind.
facetious. I was being genuine.
No.
Is
To be
this-
Bosses are
clear,
hard. They're really hard.
is this 3 hours into the game, or it took you 3 hours to fight that one boss?
I didn't start at the beginning. It was my partner's save file. So I was like, hey, can I try? And then like we were kind of passing the controller back and forth.
Ah,
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
Was
miss
that your
those
first Souls-like?
Yeah.
Or-
I really want to play Bloodborne as well.
Nice.
So
yeah, I
so
think you
again,
would
like
love,
I
think
want to
you
play
would love Bloodborne.
That's what everyone says. So like I want to play Elden Ring, I want to play Bloodborne. Why is Animal Crossing on the list? Because it's a sandbox game.
Yeah. No, I think it's a smart choice for the desert island. I just think you really need to play Bloodborne. So
I do. I really do. Well, that's the thing. I haven't played Bloodborne. I haven't played Elden Ring. So not on the list because I haven't played them.
yeah, understood.
No.
interesting. And your number 3?
Number 3 is an indie game called Ultimate Chicken Horse.
Oh my god, I just bought that game. I haven't played it yet.
Really?
Scott,
hell
it's
is this?
so good. It's so it's by a small studio based in Montreal called Clever Endeavor, and it's I've only played the multiplayer. I don't know if there's any solo play, but you pick an animal. I typically play as the raccoon, and you pick a stage, and then it's basically a round based game, I suppose. So at the beginning of every stage, and I typically play with 4 players, which is a full party. You get a box of tools. The box opens up at the beginning of the round, and everyone selects either a tool or a trap. So you could get like a plank of wood, or you can get like a hockey stick and a puck as a trap that like
Okay.
automatically like hits a puck. And then you place your items on the stage, and then at the end of kind of the selection and placement round, you need to get your little animal from the start of the stage, which is typically like the bottom left, to the ending, which on easier levels is like the top right. But you have to do it via the things that you get in your box every single round, and you get points based off of like whether you're first to get there, whether your trap prevents someone else from getting to the end. It's really fun. It's really chaotic. And again, it's one of those games where for friends that I have that don't really consider themselves people who play video games, it's a really easy game to just pick up and play with other people. So if I was stranded on a desert island, and I would want to keep in touch with the people that I care about that they don't consider themselves players really, this is a perfect game to pick up. Like I was debating, I'm like maybe Mario Kart, maybe Mario Party, maybe Smash, but Ultimate Chicken Horse is just so funny and so chaotic. It had to be on the list.
I need to bust this one out.
Marina, I really have to thank you for fully embracing the magic of this island where you can't talk to people, but you can't ask for help. I love it. Appreciate you. You really thought that through, and I appreciate that.
I got a question though. When you're setting these traps and all this stuff, are you setting them for your opponents or are you setting them for yourself?
Both. So you can fall into your own trap.
Oh, so it's a race.
It's a
Everybody
race.
gets like one thing?
One thing per round.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got it. I was recommended this game by CJ from our community, who's also a Patreon subscriber. So hopefully he's hearing this episode. And he just basically said, dude, don't even hesitate. Whatever the price is, buy this game.
So good.
And I blind bought it, and I have it installed. I've never played it because it seemed like a game that I needed to play with people, and I just have not had that opportunity to sit with a group of people in person to do it. So I need to make that happen as soon as possible.
It's so chaotic and so fun.
All right. Zach, October, we're playing this.
Is this only on PC? What is this on?
Switch. I have it on Switch.
Switch? Okay. Yeah. I'll buy it. Fuck yeah, that sounds cool.
Yeah.
Why October? What's that going on in October? Oh,
you're going to be here.
I'll be with you. Okay.
Aww.
Yeah.
I get to see you in person for the first time since 2019.
Is that right? Well, I see you. I see your face every week.
Well, I said in person.
Yeah, I know. All right. We'll have a tight embrace.
Several.
Has it been that long since we've had beef roux together?
It has been that long since we've had beef roux.
Yeah, we got to correct this. That's the best food in the world.
Yeah. Cheese fries for days.
Oh, that's
going to happen.
great.
Beef and cheddar, cheese fries, milkshake. Come on, baby.
What's your flavor of milkshake? I don't remember.
I like to switch it up, but it's hard not to go with the blue raspberry.
I like the cherry and maybe mix in a little chocolate with the cherry chocolate.
Oh, that sounds good. Yeah.
Yeah. We're getting off the rails.
No, this is important conversation. Marina's riveted by this, I'm sure.
I'm vegan. I'm vegan though, so like I need to, and I hate saying that too. So like anytime that I like go anywhere, I'm that person where I'm like, I can't have this.
Well, we can find a veggie for you.
Yeah, so I would need like a soy milk based, and I'm allergic to raspberries, unfortunately. So.
Oh, that is awful.
Yeah, it's terrible. Raspberries are great.
I love raspberries so much.
Yeah.
I make a killer raspberry jam that I will not share with you because you're allergic.
Guys, there's a nice lady who lives on my block, but she grows raspberries on the street side of her sidewalk, and they're just for anybody to pick and eat.
That's so kind.
It's amazing. Yeah, that's how people are.
More of that in the world.
Yeah, that's pretty great.
Yeah,
more of that. I love that.
All right, so your number 2 game is a raspberry-based game, I assume.
Yes. Number 2 game is Nier Automata. I can replay this game. I have already replayed it like 3 times.
Yeah, I understand that.
It's 20. It hasn't even been 2 years since I first played it. It's been a year and a half. It's so good. It's so good.
Yeah, I understand.
It's so good.
There's just those games sometimes that even if they're short, you got to bring with you the desert island. I understand.
That's it. I mean, my main story took me about 35 hours, and it was one of those like no one talked to me for the next 7 to 9 days while I finished this game when I first played it. It had me gripped, and even the second time that I played it because I bought it on Switch, I was like, it still has me gripped. It's the story, it's the characters, it's the emotion, it's it actually meaningfully asks questions about life and like what does it actually mean to be alive? What does that mean? What defines life? But it tells it through the lens of not humans but androids and robots and machines, and that's it. That's the special bit.
Excuse me. Yeah, sorry. It's what is beautiful about it is so many AI stories are about like is AI human or not. And Nier Automata answers that in about an hour, and then the rest of the 40 hours, like, well, what does that mean? What does life mean then?
That's it.
And it's amazing. It's just like you get 100 Android stories a year, and this is the only one in a decade that's been like, okay, they are human. Now what?
Yeah,
they are alive. What is it? Yeah, it's good.
It's so good. Made me cry every 30 minutes. Combat is so good.
If you're not just pouring tears the entire Route C, I mean, are you even alive?
Oh, truly.
Yeah.
Route C starts, and you're like, is this the start of the game?
I'm only mad at you because you were 5 minutes from the credits.
Yeah, that's quite funny.
If you got halfway through it and didn't like it, like, all right, it's just not for you. But I'm like, you could have just rolled the credits.
Yeah, that's.
I'm
with Zach on this one. I'm sorry.
Well, here's the thing. Zach was supposed to be here in 2020 because we were having a convention again in 2020 that got canceled for obvious reasons. And the deal was he was going to beat that boss for me that I could not get past for the life of me, and I kept getting frustrated. So he's never been here to beat that boss for me, and I just never got back to it. And I would have to start the game over at this point.
I'll knock out Route A for you while I'm there. I've got it down pretty good.
Perfect.
And if I start Route B, will it be like relearning the game again? Will it go through all the tutorials and everything?
Well, yes, because you'll be playing as a different character. They have to reteach you.
Okay. I don't know.
I'm just telling you
what all that means. I don't know what all the philosophical stuff is. about this game. All I know is there were robots doing it in a.
That is true. Yeah.
Yeah, that is
was
true.
kind of blown away by that. I was like, wow, they're doing it all sorts of different positions over there.
Their robot orgy made it an android creature. Pretty crazy. Who knew you could do that?
Yeah. You've got one more left, Marina, and I have no guesses at this point. None. No clue. So what is your...
you do. Absolutely. Are you being facetious?
Is it not
No.
Is it not Final Fantasy 14?
Oh,
It's absolutely Final Fantasy 14.
Oh, okay.
I have put in so many hours into that game, but I haven't done any
you'd
side
been done
content.
with it by then.
Well, no, I'm done with main story.
Does it
Not
ever really
everything
end?
else. Exactly. That's the beautiful thing about an MMO that's well crafted and that's really thoughtfully made, is that you have your story, you have your narrative that's constantly updated. You can play alone, you can play with friends. There's so much to do. It's like, if I want to play a side quest, I can go play a side quest. If I want to go play dungeons or raids with friends, like I can go do that. If I want to get into like extreme raiding where we need to practice for like 16 hours before we finish a boss, we go do that. I have a couple of friends in it's called a free company or guild in the game where we're like, we kind of want to get into extreme raiding. There's also these things called like treasure maps that I haven't really dug into, but apparently you can go on like treasure map quests. I'm like, okay.
Yeah. However, hundreds of hours you put into it, there's still a mechanic you don't know about.
That I don't know. Yeah. There's deep dungeons. There's like dungeon crawling. You can decide you just want to like make a bunch of money on the market boards. You can buy a house and decorate it. You can be a mentor and have like access to mentor chat and like mentor people who are new to the game. There's a casino. I actually know someone who like just goes to the casino and gambles. It's really funny. There's like in-game events. There's so much to do in the game. I have so many hours in this game. And I haven't even touched some mechanics.
She's kind of selling me on Zack.
And then the cherry on top is there's canon near content into there.
There is canon near content. The thing is, though, you need to play up until the end of Shadowbringers in order to unlock that alliance raid, but it's so good. It's really difficult. Anytime, like, because the way that you can do dungeons and raids in the game is you can sign up for a roulette and then it automatically places you based off of what other people in the world kind of either need to play for the story or want to play if it's optional. And anytime people get placed into the near raid, it's either, oh my God, this is going to be great, or absolutely not, I'm leaving. Because it's more difficult content, but it's so good. But I with zero hesitation recommend the story. You have to get through the first 3 expansions. Again, very world building. I think a lot of people describe it as like it can be a bit of a grind. But once you get to Shadowbringers, it's like I'm impressed because I played so many MMOs growing up. But going into this, I was like, no, I don't know what my expectations are.
Could you see Final Fantasy 14 being a good starting point for someone that has never played an MMO?
Yeah, I can. And I think one thing that's maybe magical, the way that the community describes it, is that people are actually really helpful in FF14. Like anytime that I remember when I first started, random players would come up to me because they would see that I had like the level 1 gear and they would just give me money. And this happens all the time. Like it's really great. I think the game incentivizes that kind of behavior in a lot of ways. Obviously, you get the people who are not that way, but the community around it is really nice. Even if you do end up playing by yourself, I think there's something to be said. And there's actually a study done about this, about playing something alone together, like just being around people who are online at the same time, even if you're just playing your own stuff by yourself.
We've talked about that actually on the show, because sometimes Zack and I will be playing a game, completely different game from one another, but we're chatting with each other. We've got like an unwritten rule that if one of us says story, that means the other one has to shut up for a minute because I'm watching a cutscene.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that now he's got a weird wackadoo schedule, so I never get to play with him anymore. But that was that was what we used to do. So yeah, it's awesome. Now, is Final Fantasy 14 PC only, or can you do that one on console?
I play on console. I play on PlayStation.
So we can play it on PlayStation.
Yeah.
Is it a subscription or is it a?
It
one-time
is. It's
purchase?
subscription. Well, you have
But
to purchase the expansion and you have to pay a monthly service fee. So,
But it's free.
Yeah.
It's like the base game. The MSQ is free, right?
yeah, the first 2 expansions. This is a huge meme. Are free. So, if you have a physical copy of Final Fantasy 16, you may or may not have gotten a pamphlet that's trying to sell you 14. That's like,
Yeah, I
play the
did, yeah.
acclaimed MMO. Yeah, Final Fantasy 14, up to level 60 or 50, I think 60 with including the award-winning Heavensward expansion. So, yeah, the first 2 expansions you can get for free. Endwalker actually is on sale right now. From what I've seen, I haven't spent a lot of time on Twitter the last week, but apparently it's 50% off. I don't
Well, it's
know
hard to
how true
read
that
Twitter
is,
at only
but,
like 300 posts at a time.
I heard about that and I was like, I my eyes are rolling so far back in my head.
Me too.
But yeah, I cannot recommend it enough for the
I,
story.
I
I
don't
own
know.
it. I do own it.
You have
so.
to play it, Zach.
Zach, we may have to do this at some point.
It's a pretty good sales pitch. There's no
Yeah.
denying that.
Yeah.
One, it's
I
smart
don't-
way before they start charging me $15 a month, to
Yeah.
let me get 60 hours taste for it or whatever.
That's a hell of a taste.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a helping.
Yeah.
I have to do it.
Yeah.
Well, that was awesome. Can you run through those 5 one more time for
Yeah.
us, Marina?
Absolutely. So my Desert Island games would be Dragon Age Inquisition, Animal Crossing, Ultimate Chicken Horse, Nier Automata, and Final Fantasy 14.
That's amazing. I can't even explain to you how happy CJ is right now that you have Ultimate Chicken Horse on your list. Because
It's
he's
so
been
good.
talking. He's been talking that game up for so long, and I keep neglecting to find a group to play that with me. So I definitely have to bust that out. So
So good.
Marina Ryan, it has been a genuine pleasure to talk with you. This has been so much fun. I wish I seriously feel like I could sit and talk to you for a couple hours just about anything gaming related. I feel like one of these times we just need to do that. Just have some beverages and sit back and talk
I
and not even
agree.
record anything. Just I wish you lived a little bit closer so we could all hang out together. We had to, and it's so difficult to play online. I can't even schedule playing online with Zach, much less someone
All
15
right,
hours
I'll
ahead
get
of
a
us.
new job. Jeez.
Yeah, seriously, man.
There you go, Scott. You've convinced him.
Yeah, that's not I'm out of there.
I've been working on it. Couldn't convince him to come live here in Illinois again, but maybe
Nope.
I'll convince him of having a job with normal hours. But do me a favor. Can you let everybody know where everybody can follow you and your work so that they can follow you?
Yeah, absolutely. Twitter is probably the best place. Although I say that with a bit of trepidation now, but
Yeah.
the handle that I use everywhere is Marina Has Coffee. Yeah, MarinaHascoffee.
When you're
Nice.
you're a bona fide video game composer.
I am, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I didn't know this.
So thank you, Zach. That's very kind. But yeah, the latest release that I'm allowed to talk about is a game called God of Rock. It's a rhythm fighter, and
Yeah.
it's super fun. I intentionally didn't put it on this list because I was like, oh, I feel like that's weird to talk about a game that like you worked on and have it on
Yeah.
your list. Yeah, super fun game. Like I grew up playing Dance Dance Revolution and Soul Calibur 2, and it's kind of a mix of both of those games. So I wrote 10 tracks for that, work with some really talented composers. But yeah, that's all
Very
I can
cool.
talk about now. Other things are under idea.
Whoa.
All right.
All right. Fancy. Okay.
Well, we'll definitely have to keep on the radar then for sure. So, like I said, it was so much fun to talk with you. I cannot believe we're done. I can't believe it's been an hour. This has flown by. It's just been an absolute blast.
Okay.
So thanks for being here, and everybody listen to this episode. If you're hearing this, it is because you are a supporter of the Gaming Outsider, and we really do appreciate your support and helping us keep the lights on over here. I know I say this often, but we don't pay ourselves with Patreon money. Every penny that we get goes towards the production of the show. We occasionally do buy review copies of games, but we in turn give them away to the community. Nobody gets a salary. Nobody gets paid. Nothing.
Rub it in, why don't you?
Hey, I'm gonna keep you on a free salary for as long as I can, man.
Yeah.
I'm gonna milk that, get that Jeff Bezos money, then maybe I'll think about it. How about that?
No, you'll be in the moon.
No,
There we go.
No, but genuinely, I really do appreciate it. I'm constantly blown away that people contribute and keep their subscriptions for as long as they do, because they like hearing Zack. I've
Oh yeah, you think it's
decided.
just me, huh?
Oh yeah, dude.
I don't think that's true.
They come listen to the free content to listen to Scott.
Oh,
They come
okay.
to the Patreon and pay money to listen to you. So
Yeah, they're like, oh, Zach curses sometimes. We gotta give him money.
yeah, pretty much. So until next time, say farewell to Marina one more time. Thanks so much for being here. But remember, there's no such thing as a bad game, just games that aren't for you. Hope you guys enjoyed those Patreon episodes. If you'd like to hear more, please be sure to subscribe over at patreon.com/thegocast. Our next episode is going to be our Game of the Year episode. It releases on Thursday. Again, there's going to be 6 of us. It's going to be myself, Zach, CB, Jacob, Alyssa, and Grant Henry to moderate the whole thing for our Game of the Year discussion. It's going to be great. We're going to be talking about our predictions for 2025, and we're going to check in with what our predictions from how we did on our last year's predictions as well. Thank you so much for listening. That's going to do it for this episode of The Gaming Outsider. As you can tell, this was produced by Kevin Honigford, and all the music you hear is written and performed by Grant Henry of Stemage and Metroid Metal. His website is stemagemusic.com, STEMAGE music.com. Please be sure to email us if you have any questions or concerns. Our address is feedback@thegamingoutsider.com. So until next week, I'm Scott Clark with Kevin Honigford, and we are The Gaming Outsider. And remember, there's no such thing as a bad game, just games that aren't for you.